Chapter 681. Medicine King Valley, 10,000 Mu of Herb Fields. 10th level 9th grade Violet Leaf Roland, 10th level 9th grade Yellow Ginseng Grass, 10th level 9th grade Three-tailed Wind Leaf. After picking 8 10th level 9th grade spiritual herbs in a row, Yuhauran raised his head and looked around. He found that although there were other alchemists picking spiritual herbs in the herb fields, they were quite far away from each other, and would not notice him for the time being. Therefore, he chose a spiritual herb field with more flourishing vegetation and took out a 10th level 9th grade spiritual herb that contained highly toxic poison from his storage ring. He then used his dantian fire to melt and refine it, finally condensing it into a spiritual liquid the size of a walnut. Returning to the edge of the herb fields, he followed the directions of the herb fields that Thaling used his divine sense to bury the highly toxic spiritual liquid at the location of Mi Long. Then, he re-entered the herb fields and began to pick 9th level 9th grade Violet Leaf Roland, Yellow Ginseng Grass, Three-tailed Wind Leaf and 8 other spiritual herbs that were exactly the same. After using his dantian fire to condense the highly toxic spiritual liquid, he buried it at the location of Cha Sha according to the location of the herb field. In the next hour, he used the same method to refine 9 8th level 9th grade spiritual liquids, 9 7th level 9th grade spiritual liquids, and 9 6th level 9th grade spiritual liquids that contained highly toxic spiritual liquid. Then, according to the directions provided by Thaling, he buried them at the watery, acupoint, and vertical positions. Yuhauran, the vein sealing technique itself is destroying the foundation of the spiritual vein. You also used different grades of spiritual liquids to corrode it. Basically, you have already cut off the hope of a third-level spiritual vein to advance to a higher grade in the future. After seeing Yuhauran bury the last type of spiritual liquid that contained highly toxic spiritual liquids at the vertical position of the herb fields, Thaling couldn't bear to see it happen. After all, if a third-level spiritual vein could continue to advance, it would become an almighty expert that would not lose to Emperor Wu's realm. This was truly a heaven-defying act for an alternate being to become an emperor. Furthermore, if a third-level spiritual vein could advance to a second-level spiritual vein, it might produce first-level spirit stones that contained divine spiritual chi. If an expert at the peak of the 9th grade martial revered realm were to use a grade 1 spirit stone that contained divine spiritual chi to break through, the chances of breaking through would be as high as 70%. Thaling, when the level 3 upper spirit vein decided to help the tyrant, it had already lost the chance to advance to a higher level. Facing Thaling's sigh, Yuhauran comforted himself in a self-deceiving manner. I'm just following the will of the heavens and carrying out punishment on behalf of the heavens. After hearing Yuhauran's self-deceiving self-comforting words, Thaling rolled her eyes at him speechlessly. She didn't say anything and just used her divine sense to stare at the rank 3 upper grade spiritual vein to observe its condition. 10 minutes later, the spiritual sense of the superior rank 3 spirit vein began to gradually return to the source of the spirit vein. Thaling knew that Yuhauran's vein sealing technique, which he used to use poison, had taken effect, so he quickly reminded him. Yuhauran, the vein sealing technique has taken effect. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yuhauran's heart was filled with joy. He immediately spread out his divine sense, and discovered that the restriction on his divine sense by the spirit vein was indeed weakening. Forcefully suppressing the ecstasy in his heart, he raised his head and looked at the alchemists who were picking spiritual herbs in the herb field. Then, he took out 3 detoxification pills to help Xiang Wenshuan remove the Black King Dragon saliva from his storage ring. After crushing them, he used the wind to blow them towards the alchemists who were picking spiritual herbs in the herb field. Every alchemist who smelled the detoxification pills immediately felt a wave of drowsiness wash over them. Originally, they wanted to return to their own residences and have a good night's sleep. However, the strong wave of drowsiness made it impossible for them to persist, and they directly fell asleep. Although the effects of the 3 detoxification pills were not enough to make all the alchemists in the herb field faint, his target was the dozen or so level 1/4 grade spiritual herbs in his line of sight. Using a movement technique, he quickly rushed towards the spiritual herbs that were sealed by the formation. Thowling do it. Although it was said that with his formation skills, he could also break the formation of the dozen or so spiritual herbs, but time was very tight. Next, he still needed to destroy the true foundation of the level 3 upper spiritual vein. He could not afford to waste too much time. Therefore, he could only trouble Thowling, who was stronger in formation skills. It's done. In just 5 seconds, Thowling had broken the formation of the level 1/4 grade Rainbow Moon Orchid and indicated to Yu Haoran that he could start. Taking out a special jade box from his storage ring, he carefully plucked the Rainbow Moon Orchid and placed it into the jade box. Then, he picked the second spiritual herb that he wanted to pick. It was a level 3/4 grade spiritual dragon Ganoderma. The Pagoda Genie also used less than 5 seconds to break the seal formation, and Yu Haoran happily put away the spirit dragon Heavenly Ganoderma. Next, Yu Haoran spent a total of less than 10 minutes to pick a total of 13 stalks of Tier 4, Grade 1 to Grade 6, before he finally stopped his act of stealing the spiritual herbs. Then, he looked up at the spiritual herb field. Although he was very tempted by the few stalks of peerless spirit herbs that were about to advance to the 3rd level, he knew that those spirit herbs were not only more powerful than the sealing formation, but they were also more connected to the grains. If he touched those spiritual herbs, he would definitely alert Guzi and expose his plan to destroy the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Therefore, forcefully suppressing the greed in his heart, Yu Haoran turned and left the spiritual herb field, heading straight for the Immortal Fate Pavilion where Guzi lived. In the Immortal Fate Pavilion, Zhao Qing, how much more time do we need to contact the Demon Lord over there? Looking at Zhao Qing, who was constantly burning level 5 first-grade spiritual stones and forcefully channeling all the spiritual qi from the burning spirit stones into a simple bronze mirror, Guzi, who was originally calm, suddenly felt frustrated and could not help but ask. Valley Master, the Demon Lord is tens of millions of kilometers away from us. Using the spiritual qi from the burning of level 5 first-grade spiritual stones, being able to contact him within 4 hours is my limit. Zhao Qing was sweating profusely as he used the spiritual qi from the burning spirit stones to activate the power of the bronze mirror. What if we use level 4 spirit stones of a higher grade? The sudden uneasiness in his heart made Guzi even more desperate to contact the Demon Lord who could provide him with the best demonic Dao secret technique. Therefore, he decided to use spirit stones of a higher grade. 30 level 4 first grade spiritual stones for 1.5 hours. The price is that you will not be able to use the bronze mirror for a year. Zhao Qing could feel Guzi's frustration and was afraid that he would do something that would hurt him. He could only grit his teeth and say this. Change to level 4 spirit stones immediately. Chapter 682. Valley of the Medicine Masters, Immortal Fate Pavilion. All right. In the face of Guzi's unyielding command, Zhao Qing nodded gloomily. Then, he took Guzi's hand and handed him 34th tier first-grade spirit stones. Using his spiritual sense, he drew out the condensed spirit liquid from the spirit stones and poured it into the bronze mirror. Just as Guzi was forcing Zhao Qing to use the level 4, Grade 1 spirit stone to increase the power of the bronze-level Dharma artifact, Yu Haoran appeared in front of the Immortal Fate Pavilion's courtyard with a movement technique. Temporarily hiding in a large tree in front of the courtyard, Yu Haoran instructed Thowling in his sea of consciousness. Thowling, I'll have to trouble you. Yu Haoran, Zhao Qing is using the spirit liquid from the level 4, first-grade spirit stones to forcefully activate the top transmission artifact of the demonic path. At most, it will take about an hour to contact the demonic path giant over there. Using his divine thought, Thaling could clearly see Gu Zi and Zhao Qing's every move in the Immortal Fate Pavilion. There's still time. They still needed about an hour to contact the demonic path giant over there and then discuss the time needed to exchange the bargaining chip. Yu Haoran secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he signaled Thaling to use a secret technique to conceal his aura and sneak into the Immortal Fate Pavilion. The Immortal Fate Pavilion, along with the Heavenly Origin Pavilion and the Earth Origin Pavilion, was known as one of the 3 wonders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. It was also the place where the Valley Lord cultivated in seclusion. Other than the beautiful scenery, the most important thing was that the Immortal Fate Pavilion was located at the source of the superior Level 3 Spirit Vein. In order to destroy the foundation of the superior Level 3 Spirit Vein, one had to find the source of the Spirit Vein and then use it to enter the interior of the Spirit Vein. After stealthily sneaking into the Immortal Fate Pavilion, apart from the cultivation room where Gu Zi and Zhao Qing were, he had already checked the entire Immortal Fate Pavilion. However, he did not find the entrance to the source of the Spirit Vein. Although he suspected that the entrance to the Spirit Vein's source was very likely to be in the cultivation room where Gu Zi and Zhao Qing were, Yu Haoran asked Thaling for help. Yu Haoran, don't be delusional. The entrance to the Spirit Vein's source is in the cultivation room where Gu Zi and Zhao Qing are. Unfortunately, Thaling had already used his divine thought to check the Immortal Fate Pavilion and mercilessly destroyed his last shred of hope. The cultivation room was not very spacious and Gu Zi and Zhao Qing were both martial saints. No matter how powerful he was, it was impossible for him to enter the Spirit Vein's source right under their noses. Therefore, he could only temporarily give up on the idea of entering the Spirit Vein through the source. Although Yu Haoran's fantasy was mercilessly destroyed by the Tower Spirit, he quickly adjusted his mentality and immediately carried out the second plan. That was to steal the heavenly fire hidden in the Tianyuan Pavilion, the number 1 pavilion in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Although he could not refine the heavenly fire with his current level of cultivation and strength, Victor might be able to store the heavenly fire for the time being. When he had the ability to refine the heavenly fire in the future, he could just take the heavenly fire from Victor. If the heavenly fire in the Tianyuan Pavilion was not suitable for him, he could use the heavenly fire to exchange for a top-notch weapon or some other rare treasure. Thaling, can you leave behind a surveillance formation so that I can know Gu Zi and Zhao Qing's movements at all times? However, Gu Zi's movements would determine whether he could enter the Spirit Vein's source as soon as possible. It also concerned the safety of his second doppelganger. Therefore, he needed to know Gu Zi's every move at all times. If it was in the past, it would definitely not work. But now. In response to Yu Haoran's question, Thaling used his divine telekinesis to sense the situation. Then, he gave an answer that excited Yu Haoran. The Spirit Vein's consciousness has been damaged by the vein sealing technique. It is temporarily unable to monitor the Valley of the Medicine Master's movements. I can barely set it up. Thaling, then I'll have to trouble you to set it up quickly. 10 minutes later, Yu Haoran left the Immortal Fate Pavilion stealthily after the pagoda spirit indicated that the surveillance formation had been successfully set up. Then, he headed straight for an ordinary-looking courtyard about 5 kilometers away from the Earth Origin Pavilion. This ordinary-looking courtyard was the number 1 pavilion in the Valley of the Medicine Master's Tianyuan Pavilion. Xiang Wenxuan had used his divine telekinesis to tell him about it before he left the Earth Source Pavilion. Actually, Yu Haoran knew what Xiang Wenxuan meant. He hoped that the heavenly fire in the Tianyuan Pavilion would be able to appease the hatred in his heart and thus resolve his grudge with the Valley of the Medicine Masters. However, how could a mere heavenly fire make up for the hatred of using a demonic path secret technique to extract his spirit? Using a movement technique, Yu Haoran arrived in front of the ordinary-looking Tianyuan Pavilion in less than 10 minutes. Just as he steadied himself, an extremely cold chill instantly numbed his limbs. The mysterious Een Spirit Fire, ranked 69th on the Heavenly Fire ranking in the Tianxian continent. Thaling could not help but shout out in shock when he felt the cold chi coming from the courtyard. Sigh, looks like the Heavenly Fire in the Tianyuan Pavilion is not fated with me. Yu Haoran could not help but sigh in disappointment when he heard Thaling point out the origin of the Heavenly Fire hidden in the Tianyuan Pavilion. Yu Haoran, although the mysterious Een Spirit Fire is not suitable for you, it is extremely suitable for your fiancée, Qin Lingfei. Thaling excitedly reminded Yu Haoran in the face of his disappointment. If Qin Lingfei is able to refine the mysterious Een Spirit Fire, not only will her strength increase tenfold, she will also be able to break through to the martial saint realm within 3 years. More importantly, with the help of the mysterious Een Spirit Fire and the power of the laws, she will also be one of the strongest experts in the martial saint realm. Yu Haoran's eyes could not help but light up when he heard Thaling's reminder. Qin Lingfei, who was born in the great Emperor Qin Empire, possessed monstrous talent, and was only 1 year older than him, was already a peak first-grade martial king. In 3 years, her cultivation had broken through from first-grade martial king to first-grade martial saint. Even with the cultivation experience from his previous life and Thaling's assistance, Yu Haoran did not have absolute confidence that he would be able to break through to the martial saint realm within 3 years. If Qin Lingfei could break through to the martial saint realm with the help of the mysterious Een Spirit Fire, not only would her status in the great Emperor Qin Empire be elevated, but it would also reduce his burden, and he would not have to worry too much about her safety. More importantly, the engagement ceremony between him and Qin Lingfei would be in 10 days. Originally, the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir was the final betrothal gift to shock the guests attending the engagement ceremony. However, due to the sudden change, he did not know if he could start refining the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir before the engagement ceremony. Therefore, the mysterious Een Spirit Fire as the final betrothal gift was no less effective than the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir. However, it would probably disappoint Emperor Qin. Chapter 683. Medicine King Valley, in front of Tianyuan Pavilion. Since he had made his decision, Yu Haoran decided to take the mysterious Een Soulfire from Tianyuan Pavilion. But before that, he needed to confirm whether Victor could store the extremely cold mysterious Een Soulfire that was ranked 69th on the mysterious flame rankings. After all, he had not expected the mysterious flame stored in Tianyuan Pavilion to be of such a high rank. Yu Haoran, let alone the 69th ranked mysterious Een Soulfire, even the 10th ranked Dragon Flame Mysterious Flame can be stored by Victor. Thaling said arrogantly. All right then. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran activated his Yuan power and spirit to form a protective barrier before pushing open the door to Tianyuan Pavilion and stepping into the courtyard. If the temperature outside the courtyard was the beginning of winter, then the temperature inside the courtyard was bitterly cold, with a difference of several dozen degrees. And this was only the temperature at the entrance. The deeper he went into the courtyard, the greater the drop in temperature. When he reached the 9th step, Yu Haoran had no choice but to stop with a grave expression. The current temperature had already reached the limit of what his body could endure. If he continued, the Yuan power in his dantian and spirit would be in danger of being frozen. No wonder no one had ever lived in Tianyuan Pavilion since it had been built. Moreover, not a single alchemy grandmaster in Medicine King Valley had successfully refined the mysterious Een Soulfire. If even a dual cultivator like him was unable to endure the corrosion of the courtyard's low temperature, then what about the alchemy grandmasters who were obsessed with the Tao of alchemy and focused on body cultivation? They probably did not even have the ability to approach Tianyuan Pavilion, let alone refine the mysterious Een Soulfire that emitted the cold mysterious Een Soulfire. His divine sense extended a centimeter out of his knowledge and was almost frozen by the extreme temperature that exceeded the limit of the 9th step. Thaling, what do I do? He lifted his head to look at the courtyard, but did not find any trace of the mysterious Soulfire. This meant that it was very likely in one of the rooms in Tianyuan Pavilion. He could not even approach the pavilion, let alone enter the room to retrieve the mysterious Soulfire. Helpless, he could only ask for Thaling's help once again. It's very simple. Use the fire of the alchemy furnace to absorb the cold Qi emitted by the Xian Soulfire and use it to enter the attic. In the face of the cold energy that Yu Haoran was helpless against, Thaling easily provided a solution. Will it work? Yu Haoran asked with uncertainty. Although the alchemy fire in the cauldron left behind by Venerable Miao Xing was not ordinary, the cauldron had been damaged in the past, causing the grade and power of the alchemy fire in the cauldron to drop by a lot. Otherwise, he would not have needed Thaling's reminder. Yu Haoran, not only is it feasible to use the pill furnace's pill flame to absorb the mysterious Soulfire's Qi, the Qi's effect on restoring the quality of the pill flame is not inferior to the Earth Origin Pavilion's spirit Qi. Thaling confidently said. Not only could it counteract the cold Qi emitted by the mysterious Soulfire, but it could also increase the grade of the alchemy fire and further restore the damage to the cauldron. With Thaling's further explanation, Yu Haoran was instantly overjoyed. Originally, he had asked Gu Zi to help him refine the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir because he was a beginner second-grade martial grandmaster. He was not confident that he could refine 365 types of spiritual medicine in one go. If the alchemy fire in the cauldron could continue to level up, with the help of his first avatar, he could try to refine the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir alone. Thinking of this, Yu Haoran directly took out the cauldron. The moment the cauldron was taken out, countless cold Qi surged into the cauldron like fish that had seen delicious food. He was so frightened that he threw the cauldron on the ground. Just as countless cold Qi surged into the cauldron and was absorbed by the alchemy fire, the temperature in the entire courtyard gradually rose. Taking a step forward, Yu Haoran tried to get closer to the attic. After taking 5 steps, Yu Haoran finally felt the threatening cold Qi again. However, he did not care about it. He used his elemental energy to drive the cauldron closer to the attic. When the cold Qi around the cauldron gradually thinned out and the temperature rose slowly, he continued to move closer to the attic. It took less than half an hour to move the cauldron and Yu Haoran finally got close to the attic. Based on the density of the cold Qi in the attic, he accurately found the location of the mysterious Soulfire. He took 3 steps back and returned to the side of the cauldron. He used his divine thought to carefully sense the alchemy fire in the cauldron and found that after absorbing the cold Qi for nearly half an hour, the alchemy fire in the cauldron was on the verge of leveling up. However, it seemed that the concentration and purity of the cold Qi in the courtyard was not high enough, causing the alchemy fire in the cauldron to lack an opportunity to level up. He used his mind to take out a low-grade Zong Realm sword from his storage ring. After injecting his soul power and elemental energy, he threw it directly to the 3rd room on the east side of the 1st floor of the attic. This was because the 3rd room on the east side of the 1st floor of the attic was the room where the mysterious Soulfire was stored. Although his soul power and elemental energy, which had reached the early stage of martial ancestor realm, could fully display the power of a low-grade martial ancestor realm sword, compared to the extremely low temperature of the cold Qi, the power of a low-grade martial ancestor realm magic weapon was still slightly inferior. The sword was only able to break through a crack in the door when it was completely frozen by the cold Qi. When it fell to the ground, it shattered into several pieces. Even though the full might of the low-tier Zong Realm sword hadn't actually opened the door to the room, it had still opened a small crack in the door, allowing the frigid aura that had accumulated in the room to escape. The cold Qi, which was so dense that it could be seen with the naked eye, surged out from the gap. After sensing the high temperature of the alchemy fire in the cauldron, the cold yin qi rushed back into the cauldron like fish back into the sea. He hurriedly retreated a few steps to avoid the cold yin qi that was rushing into the cauldron. Then, he paid attention to the gap in the door that had been opened by the low-grade martial ancestor realm sword. Yu Haoran, when the alchemy fire in the cauldron advances in rank, it will produce an extremely powerful devouring power. This powerful devouring power will instantly absorb the cold yin qi emitted by the mysterious yin soulfire. When the time comes, rush into the room as fast as you can. Then, I will use Victor to take away the mysterious yin soulfire. As more and more cold yin qi poured into the cauldron, the alchemy fire in the cauldron began to transform and advance in rank. Thaling in his knowledge, hurriedly reminded him. He immediately mobilized all the elemental energy in his dantian and stared intently at the alchemy fire in the cauldron so that he could rush into the room as soon as possible. Do it. 5 seconds later, when the alchemy fire in the cauldron advanced in rank, it suddenly produced a powerful devouring power. Not only did it start to crazily devour the cold yin qi in the room, but the force of the cold yin qi also caused the door to burst open. Chapter 684. Valley of the Medicine Masters, Tianyuan Pavilion. After hearing Thaling's warning, Yu Haoran, who had used all his strength, instantly transformed into a bolt of lightning and charged into the room. Then, he saw a fist-sized flame floating in midair, emitting a faint blue flame. However, before he could examine the flame more closely, a crack suddenly appeared in the air above the Xian Yin soulfire, and the crack swallowed the Xian Yin soulfire. Yu Haoran, the entire Tianyuan Pavilion, was created from the yin qi of the Xian Yin soulfire. Seeing that Thaling had successfully taken the Xian Yin soulfire, Yu Haoran did not even have time to celebrate before Thaling's warning sounded in his mind. Now that the Xian Yin soulfire has been taken away, the excess yin qi has been absorbed by the pill furnace's fire. The entire Tianyuan Pavilion is about to collapse. Quickly take the pill furnace and leave this place. After hearing Thaling's warning, Yu Haoran did not hesitate and appeared outside the room in a flash. He quickly ran out of the courtyard as he kept the pill furnace. Just as he was about to leave the courtyard, he heard a deafening sound of something collapsing behind him. In response, Yu Haoran did not turn back to look. Instead, he used all his strength to run straight for Gu Zi's Immortal Fate Pavilion. The most important Tianyuan Pavilion in the Valley of the Medicine Masters had suddenly been destroyed. As the valley head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Gu Zi had to be at the scene to investigate. This was also his last chance to enter the spirit vein through the source before Gu Zi acted. Yu Haoran, speed up. Gu Zi has already left the training room. Through the surveillance formation that had been set up beforehand, Thaling immediately discovered the commotion in the Immortal Fate Pavilion. After hearing that Gu Zi had already left the training room, Yu Haoran, who knew that his plan had succeeded, immediately used a small portion of his potential to continue increasing his speed. Finally, just as Gu Zi had left the Immortal Fate Pavilion, he successfully reached the courtyard of the Immortal Fate Pavilion. Without hesitation, he had Thaling use the secret technique to conceal his presence again, and then sneak into the Immortal Fate Pavilion, heading straight for the training room. Thaling, help me check on Zhao Qing's condition. When they arrived at the door of the cultivation room, Yu Haoran did not rush in. Instead, he asked Thaling to use his spiritual sense to check the situation inside the cultivation room. Yu Haoran, go in. Thaling scanned the room with his divine sense, indicating that Yu Haoran could enter the cultivation room directly. Zhao Qing is currently at the critical moment of activating the demonic dermic artifact. Even if he discovers your intrusion, he won't be able to free himself to deal with you. Great. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran was overjoyed. He immediately pushed open the door and entered the training room. Valley Master, what happened outside? Hearing the door open behind him, Zhao Qing, who was in the midst of activating the demonic Dao artifact, mistakenly thought that Gu Zi, who had just left, had returned. However, after waiting for a few seconds, he didn't get any response, so he couldn't help but want to look back. Then, he saw a fist flying towards him, landing heavily on the bridge of his nose. The sudden pain almost caused him to faint. Although he hated the person who punched him, he was at the critical moment of activating the demonic Dao artifact, so he couldn't free himself to retaliate. Thus, he could only watch as the second punch, the third punch, and finally the last punch that caused him to faint. Thawing, Zhao Qing has a secret technique that can fuse innate talent and potential. I hope that you can help me force it out of him. Pointing at the unconscious Zhao Qing, Yu Haoran put away the 12 fourth-level, first-grade spirit stones that he had yet to use, as well as the bronze mirror that had regained its ancient luster due to the loss of Zhao Qing's energy. He instructed Thawing, "What about you?" As Zhao Qing was being sucked into the tower spirit asked him how hard he should hit him. "As long as you can get the secret technique, it's up to you," Yu Haoran replied coldly. Then, he looked at the center of the training room, where Gu Zi usually sat on the praying mat. With a wave of his sleeve, he lifted the praying mat. Then, an unimaginably pure spiritual qi surged out from a hole that was about half a meter wide. Stimulated by the pure spiritual qi, his cultivation that had just broken through to the beginner's second level of martial ancestor realm seemed to be on the verge of leveling up. In response, Yu Haoran hurriedly suppressed the urge to break through and jumped into the cave. Thawing used his divine will to erase all traces and auras left in the training room, then put the praying mat back in place. As his body continued to sink, the spiritual qi surrounding him became purer and denser. In the end, he didn't even need to actively absorb the spiritual qi, as the spiritual qi flowed into his body through his pores. When he stood firmly on solid ground, not only did his cultivation break through to the intermediate second level of martial ancestor realm, even his physical body advanced to the intermediate fourth level of martial ancestor realm. Through breathing, he only needed to absorb 3 mouthfuls of pure spiritual qi to completely stabilize the level he had just broken through. Yu Haoran stood in place for a while to forcefully suppress the powerful effect of the spiritual qi at the source of the upper-level third-level spiritual vein. He waited until Thawing signaled that it was safe and showed him the way forward, then he began to move. However, the unimaginably dense spiritual qi that had yet to condense into a liquid state made it impossible for him to use his flying technique and footwork technique. He could only rely on his footsteps to slowly approach the place where the upper-level third-level spiritual vein was condensing spiritual qi. Although this speed was very slow, more and more pure spiritual qi flowed into his body. He didn't need to deliberately cultivate and continued to rapidly improve. Although he was using his footsteps to get closer to the place where the upper-level third-level spiritual vein was condensing spiritual qi, the place he had just landed was not too far from his destination. Therefore, after 20 minutes, he arrived at a lake that wasn't very big. Yu Haoran couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air as he looked at the lake water that looked like nectar. However, what he didn't expect was that during the 20 minutes of hurrying, the pure spiritual qi that his body had continuously absorbed had actually allowed his cultivation and physical body to reach the pinnacle at the same time. And the mouthful of pure spiritual qi that he had just inhaled had instantly allowed his cultivation and physical body to break through to the pinnacle of the realm. Finally, under his dumbfounded gaze, his cultivation successfully broke through to the beginner third level of martial ancestor realm, and his physical body successfully advanced to the beginner fifth level of martial ancestor realm. Moreover, just as his cultivation and physical body successfully advanced, because of the remaining pure spiritual qi in his body, they instantly reached the stage of consolidation. As long as the nectar is here, the immortals and gods are not far behind. After Yu Haoran's cultivation and physical body successfully broke through, Thaling in his sea of consciousness looked at the crystal-clear lake in front of him, and couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 685. Immortal Fate Pavilion in the Spirit Vein. Yu Haoran, although the lake water in front of you is only liquid after the concentration of spirit qi has reached a certain level, after being purified multiple times by the spirit vein, its true effect is no less than that of a level 4 or 9 spirit stone, Thaling explained. After hearing Thaling's explanation, Yu Haoran wanted to gasp. But when he thought of the uncontrollable breakthrough just now, he forcibly suppressed the urge to gasp. Immediately after, a crazy thought appeared in his mind, and he couldn't help but ask in a trembling voice. Thaling, can the victor store this lake water? No. But the answer Thaling gave him instantly cooled down the craziness that had just appeared in his heart. Yu Haoran, this is different from the spirit liquid condensed by a level 5 spirit vein spirit. The lake water in this lake is closely related to the spirit of a level 3 spirit vein. More accurately, this lake is equivalent to the sea of consciousness of a level 3 spirit vein spirit vein. If the spirit does not constantly provide spirit power, the sea of consciousness will gradually shrink until it disappears. So, the lake water only has a heaven-defying effect in a level 3 spirit vein. Sigh. Unable to take away the spirit liquid that could raise one's cultivation without any side effects, Yu Haoran sighed deeply. Then, he shook his head vigorously, dispelling the messy thoughts that had just appeared in his mind, and began to look for a suitable place to destroy the foundation of a level 3 spirit vein. In the end, a slightly protruding hill not far from the lake attracted his attention. Using the same method of walking, he approached the hill step by step. At the same time, after dealing with the unexpected collapse of the Tianyuan Pavilion, Gu Zi returned to the Immortal Fate Pavilion with a gloomy face. The Xian-Yin spirit fire hidden in the Tianyuan Pavilion could be said to be one of the most important means for the rise of the Valley of the Medicine Masters in the future. After all, as long as one could successfully refine the Xian-Yin spirit fire, not only would it greatly increase one's strength, but it would also be a heaven-defying aid to one's alchemy cultivation. If an alchemy grandmaster realm alchemy master were to refine the Xian-Yin soul fire, it would take at least 3 months to half a year for their alchemy cultivation to reach the alchemy grandmaster realm. If an alchemy grandmaster realm alchemist refined the Xian-Yin soul fire, their alchemy cultivation would reach the pinnacle of the alchemy grandmaster realm in 1 to 3 years. Moreover, he was able to refine 3rd level 9th grade pills independently and had a 70% chance of breaking through the realm of Alchemy Grandmaster and becoming the legendary Pill Emperor. However, the conditions to refine the profound Yin soul fire were too harsh. Not only did it require a strong physical body, tenacious willpower, and a fearless confidence, but it also required a suitable physique for the profound Yin soul fire. This was also the reason why the Medicine King's Valley had kept the mysterious Yin spirit fire in Tianyuan Pavilion for almost 100 years, because the Medicine King's Valley had not been able to find a suitable disciple to refine the Xian-Yin soul fire. However, some time ago, the great elder who had gone out to train suddenly sent a message saying that he had not only found a suitable disciple to refine the Xian-Yin soul fire, but that disciple also had the top monstrous talent. Now that the Xian-Yin soul fire had suddenly disappeared, not only did the Medicine King's Valley lose an important means to become stronger in the future, but he also did not know how to explain it to the great elder. After all, the person who truly controlled the Medicine King's Valley was not him, the Valley Master in name, but the great elder who had a stronger cultivation. Sigh. Thinking of the great elder's anger, Gu Zi could not help but sigh. However, if he could extract Yu Haoran's soul body and obtain the refining method of the 5 Lives Black Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, it would increase the strength of the Medicine King's Valley no less than the Xian-Yin soul fire. His depressed mood immediately eased a lot. because using the 5 Lives Black Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, he could recruit some quasi-martial honorables who did not have the confidence to pass the 3 tribulations. And quasi-martial honorables were the chess players who had the ability to influence the direction of the Tianxian continent. Thinking of this, Gu Zi's desire to contact the demon master of the demonic way as soon as possible became even more urgent. Pushing open the door of the training room, Gu Zi stepped into the room and asked, "Zhao Qing, how is the activation of the magic weapon? How much longer do you need?" Before he could finish his question, Gu Zi was stunned. Because in the training room, besides the praying mat that was usually used for meditation, there was nothing else. That damned Zhao Qing. Considering that before he left the training room, Zhao Qing still had 12 level 4 first-rank spirit stones, the first thought that appeared in Gu Zi's mind was that Zhao Qing had embezzled the level 4 first-rank spirit stones and escaped from the Immortal Fate Pavilion and the Medicine King's Valley. Filled with anger, Gu Zi could not help but roar angrily. Then, not only did he directly activate the protective array of the Medicine King's Valley, but he also contacted the soul of the upper level 3 spirit vein, intending to track Zhao Qing and see if he had escaped from the Medicine King's Valley. There was no problem in mobilizing the mountain protection formation. However, when he tried to contact the consciousness of the spiritual vein of the spiritual vein, Gu Zi was shocked to find that the spiritual vein's consciousness, which had never been cut off, suddenly had no response. Thinking of the sudden destruction of the Tianyuan Pavilion and the mysterious disappearance of the Xian Yin Soulfire, Gu Zi immediately felt that something was wrong. With a wave of his sleeve, the praying mat in front of him revealed a passage to the interior of the spirit vein. Without any hesitation, Gu Zi jumped into the spirit vein. He used his foot to stomp hard on the slightly protruding hill and found that the ground of the hill was very hard. He then spread out his divine will, following the hard ground and entering the ground bit by bit. Although he was limited by his own cultivation level and the influence of the incomparably dense spirit energy in the surroundings, his divine will could not extend more than 2 meters. However, this distance of 2 meters allowed him to confirm that the hard little hill under his feet was the real weakness of the upper level 3 spirit vein. To be more precise, the hard little hill under his feet was actually filled with the best level 3 spirit stones from level 1 to level 9. And these level 3 spirit stones were the source of power that the upper level 3 spirit vein used to increase the strength of the spirit vein. He retreated from the little hill and mentally retrieved 3 black saliva balls from his storage ring. Then, using his Yuan Li to control the black saliva balls, he detonated them on the little hill. Boom! 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 After the explosion of the black saliva balls disappeared, Yu Haoran raised his head and glanced at the little hill. He found that the explosion of the black saliva balls did not even leave a white mark, let alone a hole. Yu Haoran, unless your cultivation level reaches the martial honorable realm, or the power of the black saliva balls increases by 100 times, you can forget about blasting open the spirit vein in front of you that is formed by level 3 spirit stones. Chapter 686. Immortal Fate Pavilion in the Spirit Vein. Thaling, it looks like you're the only one left. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran shrugged his shoulders and gestured for him to blast open the small hill in front of him so that he could collect the 3rd-level spirit stones that could be said to be the best in the Tianxian continent. Yu Haoran, if it was a spiritual hill formed by the soul of an upper-level 4th-level spirit vein, perhaps I could blast open a part of it with all my might. Unfortunately, what made him extremely disappointed was that the pagoda spirit was also helpless in the face of the small hill formed by the grade 3 spirit stones. But against a spiritual hill formed by the soul of an upper-level 3rd-level spirit vein, I am helpless. Sigh. Faced with an inexhaustible mountain of gold, but ultimately unable to take any of it due to his own reasons, Yu Haoran sighed rather gloomily. Then, his gloominess turned into anger. Driven by anger, he sped up his pace and returned to the small hill, then sat down cross-legged. He directly took out the cauldron and took out 36 spirit herbs of different grades and attributes from his storage ring. Yuhauran, are you sure you want to do this? Seeing that Yuhauran planned to completely destroy the foundation of the upper-level third-level spirit vein through the method of refining poison pills that contained deadly poison, Thaling could not bear to continue persuading him. After all, using the vein sealing technique that contained deadly poison had basically cut off the hope of the upper-level third-level spirit vein to advance to a second-level spirit vein. If he used the poison pills on the Tianxian continent's 100 poison ranking to continue destroying the foundation of the spirit vein, the result was very likely to cause the upper-level third-level spirit vein to deteriorate, eventually downgrading to a 4th level or even a 5th level spirit vein. At that time, the Tianxian continent would lose a foreign cultivator who had a high chance of advancing to the Emperor realm. Thaling, even if I am willing to let go of the grudge between us now, the Valley of the Medicine Masters will let me go. In the face of Thaling's persuasion, Yuhauran controlled the fire of the cauldron to melt and refine the spirit vein as he refuted Thaling's advice. Furthermore, the person who truly controls the life and death of the Valley of the Medicine Masters is the stronger and more insidious Great Elder. If the Great Elder finds out what I've done, I'm afraid the result won't be much better than having my soul extracted. Therefore, the one who strikes first gains the advantage, and the one who strikes later suffers. After I cut off the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Guzi and the head elder would have to think of a way to save the Valley of the Medicine Masters, as well as deal with the threat of external enemies. They would not have the time and energy to deal with me. Alas! After hearing Yuhauran's explanation, Thaling couldn't help but sigh and stop trying to persuade him. As one stalk of spirit herb after another was thrown into the pill furnace, Yuhauran's mind was also completely immersed in refining the pill. However, he did not notice that the calm surface of the lake was gradually surging with a trace of ripples. Thaling, who was affected by his melancholy, also did not notice the abnormality in the lake. Refining, condensing, forming, and dividing. With the help of the power of the pill furnace's fire after the second advancement, it only took 15 minutes for 3 pills emitting a strange fragrance to slowly fall into Yuhauran's palm. Carefully sniffing the strange fragrance emitted by the pills, Yuhauran suddenly felt refreshed. Looking at the 3 pills in Yuhauran's hand, Thaling said solemnly, "Life-devouring pill, devouring the bones, devouring the soul, and devouring the living. Don't blame me for using the life-devouring pill to deal with you, the soul of an upper-level rank 3 spirit vein." Holding the 3 life-devouring pills in his hand, Yuhauran walked back to the lake and muttered to himself with a pained expression. If it wasn't for the fact that the Valley of the Medicine Masters Guzi intended to use a demonic secret method to extract the power of my soul and use it to steal my pill refining technique. How could a kind-hearted person like me use such a heaven-defying method to deal with you? Yuanli wrapped the 3 life-devouring pills and was about to throw them into the lake. Yuhauran shook his head and sighed. "Little friend, please take into account that it is not easy for us alien cultivators to cultivate, and listen to this old man first." Just as Yuhauran's palm was about to open and the 3 life-devouring pills in his hand were about to point at the lake, a panicked old voice suddenly came from all directions. Thaling, who also heard the panicked old voice, immediately released his peak martial honorable realm mind to trace the source of the voice and finally locked onto the lake in front of him. Yuhauran, the soul of an upper-level rank 3 spirit vein, is hiding in the lake in front of you. Senior, since you want to negotiate, but you don't want to show your true body, isn't that too insincere? Yuhauran didn't retract his arm holding the life-devouring pill and asked with a sneer. "Little friend, I don't know what happened, but an hour ago, this old man suddenly felt that his soul was extremely weak. Now, not to mention revealing my true body, Even if I want to communicate with you, I have to burn a large number of rank 4 spirit stones. Hearing Yuharan's cold question and his unwillingness to withdraw his threat, the soul of the spirit vein in the lake hurriedly explained. Speak. Using the highly toxic vein sealing technique to cause such great harm to the soul of the spirit vein was beyond Yuharan's expectations. Therefore, he did not pursue the other party's impoliteness of not revealing his true body, and directly asked the other party's purpose. However, Fouling in the sea of knowledge frowned and overdrew a small part of his soul power to increase the power of his mind, and then quietly entered the lake. Little friend, what do you need this old man to do for you to be willing to put away the life-devouring pills in your hand that can devour souls? Although due to its special constitution, the soul of the spirit vein could not become an alchemist, but after years of interaction and observation with the top alchemists of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, the soul of the spirit vein had an understanding of alchemy that was not inferior to a grandmaster at the peak of alchemy. It knew better than anyone the power of the life-devouring pill to harm the soul of an alien cultivator. It also knew that in its current state, meeting the life-devouring pill would mean certain death. Spirit vein, what price can you offer to make me give up the idea of revenge? In a negotiation, especially one that involved interests, whoever exposed their trump card first would suffer first. How could Yuharan, who was more shrewd than a fox, make such a mistake? Therefore, he withdrew his hand that was holding the life-devouring pill and asked with a smile. Little friend, I saw that you wanted to use the black saliva ball to blow up my soul carrier. I'm afraid that you have your eye on the rank 3 upper spirit stones. The equally shrewd soul of the spirit vein also knew the techniques of negotiation that involved interests. Therefore, he did not reveal all his trump cards at the beginning, but based on his own observations, he began to fish for Yuharan's bottom line. How about this, 45 rank 3 first rank to rank 9 spirit stones, how about that? Spirit vein, what do you think? 45 rank 3 first rank to rank 9 spirit stones. The conditions that the soul of the spirit vein had just offered were very generous. After all, 45 rank 3 first rank spirit stones were enough to satisfy the needs of a warrior who had just started learning martial arts, all the way to the realm of martial honor. But to Yuharan, the conditions that the soul of the spirit vein had just offered were far from what he had expected. Chapter 687. Inside the spirit vein, in front of the lake. Double it. 93rd tier 1st to 9th tier spirit stones. How about it? Seeing Yuharan stretch out his left hand that was holding the life-devouring pill again, and his clenched fist loosened slightly, as if he was going to shoot the life-devouring pill, the spiritual vein divine soul couldn't help but raise the price in panic. Not enough. Yuharan shook his head and refused. It was only a doubling of the spirit stones, but it still didn't reach his expectations. Young friend, the lake in front of you is a spirit liquid that has been purified 9 times using a special method. Its effect is no less than that of a 4th stage or 9th grade spirit stone. Seeing that the doubled amount of spirit stones was still not enough to satisfy Yuharan, the spirit vein spirit immediately thought of the greed that had appeared in Yuharan's eyes when he had first arrived at the lake. I'm willing to give you 1/10 of it. How about that? Spirit vein divine soul, you disappoint me. Yuharan could not help but laugh sarcastically when he heard that the second condition of the spiritual vein spirit was actually to give away the lake water in front of him. The effect of the lake water is not inferior to that of a 4th stage 9th rank spirit stone. It is closely connected to your spirit, so I can't maintain the effect of the lake water to increase your cultivation base and strength for a long time. Tell me, what do I need this lake water for? This. Yuharan was even able to tell that the purified lake water was closely connected to his spiritual soul. Yuharan's mysterious means terrified the spiritual vein's spiritual soul. At the same time, it did not know what to say. Yuharan, be careful. The spirit vein soul is using a terrifying soul-controlling mystic technique at the bottom of the lake. I'm afraid it wants to control your soul-controlling mystic technique in order to remove the threat of the life-devouring pill. Just when Yuhauran had exposed the evil intentions of the spirit vein and made it speechless, Thaling, who had used the power of his spirit to enhance his soul consciousness to observe the spirit vein, reminded Yuhauran with a somewhat panicked expression. To be able to cause the pagoda spirit to panic, it meant that the secret technique used by the spirit vein spirit was not something he could resist. Therefore, after hearing Thaling's reminder, Yuhauran did not hesitate at all. He directly flicked the 3 life-devouring pills in his hand into the lake, and then sped up to retreat. Not good, the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Gu Zi, is on his way. Just as Yuhauran accelerated his retreat and planned to temporarily leave the spirit vein, Thaling's warning came from his sea of consciousness. There were wolves in front and tigers behind. Faced with a dilemma, Yuhauran did not panic at all. Instead, he calmly thought of a way to deal with it. It was a secret control technique that could cause Thaling, whose spirit had recovered to the peak of the martial honorable realm, to panic. Therefore, it would not be easy for someone with a rank 3 upper spiritual vein, who was only at the peak of martial honorable realm, to successfully execute it. The sealing technique of the 5 veins, which contained deadly poison, had already caused serious damage to his spirit. The life-devouring pills that had just been flicked into the lake would affect the safety of his spirit. Under such circumstances, it was hard to say whether the spirit vein's spirit could successfully execute the secret control technique. Moreover, even if the spirit vein's spirit could execute the secret control technique, so what if it could successfully control his spirit? Based on the speed at which the life-devouring pills damaged the spirit, it would take at most 1 to 2 minutes for the spirit vein to be completely devoured. Without the spirit vein, how could it continue to control his spirit? Thinking of this, Yuhauran immediately made a decision. Mobilizing all the Yuan power in his dantian, he sped up to the lake in front of him. Yuhauran, what are you doing? Seeing Yuhauran speed up to the lake, Thaling asked in confusion. I feel that my cultivation is too low, so I plan to use the spiritual liquid that has been purified 9 times to increase my cultivation. Casually answering Thaling's question, Yuhauran jumped directly into the lake. If the pure spiritual qi in the spiritual vein was like a stream of water, then the spiritual liquid that had been purified 9 times was like a raging sea. His cultivation and grade were rising crazily, completely out of his control. In this regard, Yuhauran, who had long been prepared, was not nervous at all. While guarding his heart, he spread out his divine thought to find the location of the spirit vein. Ah! Just as Yuhauran jumped into the lake, the spirit vein felt the life-devouring pills devouring the spirit vein. It could not help but scream and beg bitterly. Little friend, I beg you, hurry up and dissolve the poison of the life-devouring pills. No matter what you ask, I will agree to it. According to the source of the scream, Yuhauran's divine thought quickly saw a mini blue dragon about 1 meter long, emitting a blue light all over its body near the bottom of the lake. Spirit vein, didn't you secretly use a secret method to control my spirit vein? Stabilizing his body, Yuhauran looked coldly at the blue dragon, whose spirit was gradually being devoured by the life-devouring pills, causing it to writhe in pain. His voice was full of coldness. Now you can use a secret method to see if you can control my spirit vein. Little friend, everything is my fault. I apologize to you now. Moreover, I swear by the rules of heaven, if I have any thoughts of hurting you, my spirit will be devoured and I will never be reincarnated. Seeing that Yuhauran was aware of its secret method, the spirit vein immediately knew why he suddenly used the life-devouring pills. It also knew that if it could not immediately come up with a method to convince him, its spirit vein would completely disappear in 1 or 2 minutes at most. Therefore, it hurriedly swore by the rules of heaven, hoping that it could persuade Yuhauran. Yuhauran let it go, then find a way to control it, and finally transfer it to Qingyun Peak. Hearing Thaling, who also swore by the rules of heaven, a bold idea immediately came to his mind, and he quickly reminded him. In this way, Qingyun Peak will have the potential to become a cave abode in the future. Okay. Thaling's reminder was exactly what he had just thought of, so Yuhauran pretended to be reluctant and agreed. Then, he took out 9 spiritual herbs that contained highly toxic poison from the storage ring, and then used the dantian fire to melt and refine them. Every time a drop of spirit liquid was melted and refined, the spirit liquid would automatically merge into the soul of the spirit vein, calming down the blue dragon who was writhing in pain. By the time the 9 stalks of spirit herbs had completely melted and purified into spirit liquid and merged with the spirit vein's spirit, the 1-meter-long blue dragon had completely calmed down. Although Yuhauran was bound by the rules of the heavenly Tao and the spirit vein's spirit did not dare to attack him, the cautious Yuhauran did not dare to be careless and directly pointed it out. Spiritual veins and divine souls. The 9 drops of spiritual liquid I hurriedly refined just now were only temporarily suppressing the soul-devouring power of the life-devouring pill. Chapter 688. In the spirit vein, in the lake. Thank you. After calming down the pain caused by the life-devouring pill, he slowly opened his eyes and looked at Yuhauran floating in the lake. The blue dragon formed by the spirit vein soul spoke his thanks in human language. Waving his hand, Yuhauran indicated that there was no need to be so courteous. He planned to leave the lake first. After all, he had been in the lake for less than 3 minutes and his cultivation and physical body grade had already increased by more than a small realm due to the pure spiritual liquid that crazily surged into his body. At this moment, his cultivation was already at the high stage of 4th grade martial arts grandmaster and his cultivation grade had also reached the high stage of 6th grade martial arts grandmaster. If he continued to stay, his cultivation and physical body grade would continue to break through uncontrollably in a few minutes. A breakthrough in cultivation and physical body grade was a good thing, but if it was not under his control, it would make him feel uncertain, and he would be worried about whether it would affect his solid foundation. Honored Blue Dragon, are you there? However, just as Yuhauran was about to leave the lake and suppress his rapid breakthrough, Gu Zi's concerned voice suddenly came from the surface of the lake above his head. Young friend, what should I do? Hearing Gu Zi's concerned question, the spirit vein soul immediately asked for Yuhauran's opinion. Think of a way to get him out of the spirit vein. If he made use of the spirit vein soul and the special environment of the upper 3rd grade spirit vein, there was a high chance that Gu Zi would remain. However, this flash had only just appeared before it was forcefully extinguished by him. This was different from destroying the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. This kind of damage was indirect and lasted for a longer time. Furthermore, there was the hope of making up for it and the possibility of making peace with the Valley of the Medicine Masters. However, if he directly killed the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, it would be equivalent to creating a blood feud with the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Furthermore, the side effects of killing the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters were not something he could bear for the time being. Therefore, he could only think of a way to get Gu Zi to leave first. Valley Head, I'm fine. Just now, when Tianyuan Pavilion was destroyed, the cold air produced by the Xian Soul fire damaged my consciousness slightly. In at most 3 to 5 days, I will be able to completely recover. After receiving Yuhauran's instructions, the spiritual pulse divine soul thought for a while and used the Xian Soul fire as an excuse to signal Gu Zi to leave. That's good, that's good. Hearing that nothing had happened to the rank 3 upper spirit vein, the originally anxious Gu Zi secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he could not help but rejoice. "Venerable Blue Dragon, please have a good rest. I'll take my leave first." Subsequently, he instructed the spirit in the spiritual vein to recuperate its damaged spiritual sense before hurriedly turning around and leaving the spiritual vein. Not only did he have to send men to capture Zhao Qing, he also had to think of a way to appease Yu Haoran and convince him not to leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters for the time being. After the Thaling confirmed that the grains had really left, Yu Haoran quickly left the lake. Because of the delay in Gu Zi's recovery, his cultivation and physical body grade had been forcefully raised to the peak by the pure spirit liquid. Using Yuanli to rush out of the lake and land steadily on the shore, Yu Haoran hurriedly suppressed the raging Yuanli in his body and the urge to break through to the next level. "Young friend, when do you think it would be convenient to refine the antidote for the life-devouring elixir?" The spiritual pulse divine soul also floated to the surface of the lake and looked at Yu Haoran with longing in its eyes. Shrugging his shoulders, Yu Haoran said with a helpless expression, "Although I really want to refine the antidote now, I lack the spirit herbs needed to refine the antidote. I don't have a choice. Young friend, please give me a set of the spirit herbs needed to refine the antidote. I'll see if I can gather them." It could refine the antidote, but it couldn't because of the lack of spirit herbs. Faced with Yu Haoran's explanation, the spiritual pulse divine soul heaved a sigh of relief and planned to gather the spirit herbs needed to refine the antidote himself. After all, the Medicine King Valley was still the holy land of alchemy in the Tianxian continent. There were tens of thousands of precious spirit herbs planted in the thousands of acres of herb field. Whatever spirit herbs one wanted, the grade of spirit herbs one needed, could not be found. Here, taking out a blank jade slip, he used his divine thought to mark a total of more than 600 spirit herbs and threw it directly to the spiritual pulse divine soul. This, after scanning the jade slip with his divine thought, the spiritual pulse divine soul suddenly looked at Yu Haoran speechlessly. Even the level 2 grade 9 divine elixir, which was said to be able to help the Emperor Wu break through to the martial-honored realm, did not need so many spirit herbs. Yu Haoran was obviously taking advantage of the situation. "Don't look at me like that." Seeing the speechless and doubtful look in the spiritual pulse divine soul's eyes, Yu Haoran suddenly questioned unhappily, "Are you refining the detoxification elixir, or am I refining the detoxification elixir?" "Of course it's you." Seeing Yu Haoran's displeasure, the spiritual pulse divine soul hurriedly indicated with a smile, "Since I'm refining the detoxification elixir, it's up to me to decide how many spirit herbs are needed. Do you think the detoxification elixir of the life-devouring elixir is so easy to refine? Young friend, don't misunderstand. I really don't mean anything else. I'm just thinking about how long it will take to gather the 600 spirit herbs." Fearing that Yu Haoran would be angry and delay the time to refine the detoxification elixir, the spiritual pulse divine soul hurriedly persuaded him. "That's right." Yu Haoran nodded with satisfaction. In fact, the spiritual pulse divine soul's guess was right. Among the 600 spirit herbs, only 9 were needed to refine the detoxification elixir. The remaining 600-plus spirit herbs included a complete set of the 365 spirit herbs needed to refine the Iceheart Jade Bone Elixir. With the second upgrade of the alchemical fire in the alchemical furnace, the melting and refining speed of the spirit herbs had increased, and the consumption of Yuan Li and soul power had decreased. This made his desire to refine the Iceheart Jade Bone Elixir with his own abilities more and more intense. However, considering that the Iceheart Jade Bone Elixir was of a higher grade than the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir, he wasn't 100% confident that he could refine it successfully. Therefore, he needed to prepare a set of spirit herbs for the Iceheart Jade Bone Elixir in case he needed them. Other than the 365 spirit herbs needed to refine the Iceheart Jade Bone Elixir, the remaining 200-plus spirit herbs were to be used to refine the Vitality Elixir and the Soul Elixir. After all, the martial ancestor, martial king and martial emperor realms cultivation targeted the soul. The vitality elixir and the soul elixir could satisfy these three realms at the same time. Alright, then quickly prepare the spirit herbs needed to refine the detoxification elixir. I still have matters to attend to and need to leave this place immediately. He had temporarily let go of the spiritual pulse divine soul so that he could move the spiritual pulse divine soul to Qinyun Peak in the future. However, leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters would cause great damage to the spiritual pulse divine soul. He was afraid that it might not be willing. In order to achieve the goal of moving it, he had to make preparations beforehand. However, these preparations couldn't be done in front of the spiritual pulse divine soul. Chapter 689. In the spirit vein, in front of the lake, Yuhauran instructed the spirit vein soul to quickly prepare the 600 or so spirit herbs needed to refine the antidote elixir as soon as possible. But at this moment, the spirit vein soul behind him suddenly asked, "Young friend, where do you plan to go next?" 10,000 acres of herb fields. Yuhauran replied. To control the spirit vein soul, he still needed to make use of poison, which he was most proficient in. So he planned to go to the herb fields to pick the spirit herbs and integrate them into the antidote elixir. Young friend, the entire Valley of the Medicine Masters is built on the body of my spirit vein. As long as you are in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, no matter where you want to go, I can send you there in an instant. Not leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Yuhauran's explanation reassured the spirit vein soul, and it couldn't help but curry favor with him. If that's the case, then please send me to the herb fields. The spirit vein soul's reply delighted Yuhauran, and he hurriedly instructed. The uncontrollable consecutive breakthroughs in his realm made Yuhauran worry about whether his solid foundation would be shaken. So he really didn't want to go back the way he came to avoid the uncontrollable pure spirit energy entering his body forcefully and causing him to continue breaking through his realm. Alright. The blue dragon condensed from the spirit vein soul waved its dragon claws, and Yuhauran instantly returned to the herb fields. And just as he stabilized his body, a mysterious power suddenly surged into his mind. Carefully feeling the mysterious power in his mind, Yuhauran immediately felt a burst of ecstasy. Because just as he entered the spirit vein and planned to destroy the foundation of the upper level 3 spirit vein, his first doppelganger successfully passed the 3 tests left behind by the Honorable Alchemist and successfully received the inheritance of the Honorable Alchemist's Pill Dao and Poison Dao. Originally, limited by his own cultivation, he didn't have much confidence in refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir alone. Now, with the cooperation of his first doppelganger, who had successfully received the inheritance of the Honorable Alchemist and the help of the furnace fire that had advanced 2 times in a row, he was confident in his ability. With regards to refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, his confidence was about the same as refining the grains. Of course, other than having a greater chance of refining the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir, what really made Yuhauran ecstatic was that Alchemy Venerated was still a peak alchemy grandmaster. In his previous life, his alchemy cultivation had been limited by the environment he lived in. He had been stuck at the peak of the alchemy grandmaster realm. He wasn't as confident as he was in front of Feng Qinyun and Qin Lingfei about whether he could break through to the Pill Dao Grandmaster realm in 3 to 5 years. However, now that he had the legacy of the Alchemy Venerate, as well as his first clone that specialized in alchemy and poison pills, he was confident that he could break through to the Alchemy Grandmaster realm within 1 to 2 years, let alone 3 to 5 years. Closing his eyes, he used the doppelganger's mental connection to contact his first doppelganger. In the beginning, he was unable to communicate with the first clone because of the double restriction of the spirit vein and the alchemy venerate's space. This caused their minds to be forcefully severed. Now that he had left the spirit vein and his first doppelganger was in control of the alchemy venerated space, it did not take much effort for him to successfully contact his first doppelganger. "Brother how do you feel?" "Brother Yu, we were all wrong." In the face of Yu Haoran's concern, the first doppelganger gave an answer that puzzled Yu Haoran. "Brother How, could it be that the legacy of the alchemy venerate is fake?" Yu Haoran asked with some disappointment. "No." The first doppelganger shook his head and said with a rueful expression. "The legacy of the alchemy venerate is real. However, what's different from the rumors is that the alchemy venerate is not at the peak of the alchemy grandmaster realm, but an alchemy emperor who has broken through to the alchemy grandmaster realm." After hearing the first doppelganger's explanation, Yu Haoran asked in disbelief. The alchemy venerate was actually an alchemy emperor who had broken through to the alchemy grandmaster realm. "Brother How, you're saying that the alchemy venerate has already become an alchemy emperor?" "That's right." The first doppelganger nodded and confirmed with a solemn expression. "That's not right." Although he had received confirmation from the first doppelganger, based on the realms of alchemy masters in his previous life and his understanding of the alchemy venerate, he could not help but have a question in his heart. "Brother How, if the alchemy venerate had already become an alchemy emperor, then with his alchemy cultivation, he could have concocted the yin-yang longevity pill that could increase one's lifespan by 10,000 years. It would be impossible for him to die of old age when his lifespan reached the limit of 3,000 years. Regardless of whether it was the records of the alchemy venerate in the Medicine King Valley or the rumors of the alchemy venerate in the outside world, the alchemy venerate had only lived to the limit of 3,000 years when he reached the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm. Although breaking through to the alchemy venerate realm would not increase one's lifespan, through the alchemy skills of the alchemy venerate realm, there were many kinds of top-notch pills that could increase one's lifespan. They would definitely be able to break through the shackles of the 9th grade martial saint realm. Brother Yu, actually, when the alchemy venerate broke through to the alchemy venerate realm, his own cultivation had also broken through to the martial honor realm. Faced with Yu Haoran's question, the first doppelganger explained further, suppressing a strong sense of hatred in his voice. However, just as he was breaking through to the martial and alchemy realms and consolidating his cultivation, he was unexpectedly ambushed by a group of black-clothed men, resulting in him having no choice but to commit suicide due to his heavy injuries. "So that's how it is." Nodding his head, Yu Haoran finally understood why the alchemy venerate, who had broken through to the alchemy emperor realm, would suddenly die of old age. So it was because of an accident. "Brother Yu, can I ask you for a favor?" Recalling the scene of the alchemy venerate being ambushed and heavily injured and having no choice but to commit suicide, the first doppelganger's heart instantly surged with boundless killing intent as he made this request. "Brother How, you and I are one person. What's the point of asking for favors?" Yu Haoran hinted. "Brother Yu, since I've accepted the alchemy venerate's inheritance, I'm his only disciple. Then, as his disciple, I have an obligation to avenge my master," the first doppelganger said with a murderous aura. "Therefore, I hope that brother you can help me investigate the origins of those black-clothed men when you go out for training. Also, when you break through to the martial saint realm, kill those who ambushed my master." "No problem." Faced with the first doppelganger's request, Yu Haoran nodded his head in agreement without hesitation. "Brother Yu, many thanks." The first doppelganger thanked sincerely. "All right, you don't have to be so courteous with me." After comforting the first doppelganger, Yu Haoran immediately returned to the topic at hand and asked, "Brother How long do you need to fully understand the alchemy venerate's inheritance? If it's just to accept the inheritance, it'll take at most a day and a night." After calculating the time, the first doppelganger replied, "If I want to fully comprehend the pill Tao and poison pills that my master left behind, I'll need at least 20 years. Brother How, after you've accepted the alchemy venerate's inheritance, meet me immediately. Then, we'll work together to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. For the time being, Yuhauran did not need to fully comprehend the alchemy venerate's inheritance in order to refine the 2 types of pills. Therefore, Yuhauran quickly reminded him. Chapter 690. The Valley of the Medicine Masters, in front of the herb fields. Yuhauran opened his eyes after finishing his conversation with the first doppelganger. However, he immediately closed his eyes again. This was because the second doppelganger had taken the initiative to contact him through an intimate connection. Brother Yu. The second doppelganger called out after sensing Yuhauran's response. Brother How, what happened? Yuhauran hurriedly asked. Just now, the valley head of the Medicine Master's Valley, Guzi, came and said that he has already eliminated the problem in the Earth Source Pavilion and hopes that I can move back to the Earth Source Pavilion, the second doppelganger explained. Other than that, Yuhauran continued to ask. If it was just moving back to the Earth Source Pavilion, the second doppelganger could make the decision himself without asking for his opinion. Guzi asked me when I plan to start refining the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. The second doppelganger continued to explain. Brother Ran, tell Guzi that we can move back to the Earth Source Pavilion, but he doesn't need to worry about refining the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. After some consideration, Yuhauran felt that if he wanted to continue increasing his success rate in refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, the environment of the Earth Source Pavilion was more suitable for him. Hence, he did not object to Guzi's request to move back to the Earth Source Pavilion. However, he rejected Guzi's request to continue refining the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill without even considering it. A sinister villain who wanted to use a secret technique of the Devil Tao to extract his soul and use it to steal the refining method of the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. How could he be at ease letting such a person cooperate with him in refining pills? Furthermore, he already had the ability and means to refine these 2 pills on his own. He did not need others to observe and learn his refining method. I understand. The second doppelganger nodded and cut off the connection with Yuhauran. After opening his eyes, Yuhauran did not rush into the herb fields to harvest the spirit herbs. Instead, he stood in place and thought for a while, pondering over Guzi's motives. Thinking about it, it was likely that Guzi had mistakenly believed that Zhao Qing had escaped from the Valley of the Medicine Masters with the remaining Grade 4 Spirit Stones because Zhao Qing was safe and sound. This made him unwilling to give up. He wanted to capture Zhao Qing and use Zhao Qing to continue communicating with the Devil Tao. Then, he would use the Devil Tao's secret technique to extract the power of his soul. If it had been half an hour ago, perhaps he would have considered leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters as soon as possible. However, Yuhauran now had the protection of an upper-grade Tier 3 spirit vein, so he had the patience to continue staying. Firstly, he could make use of the Earth Origin Pavilion's scorching spirit chi environment to refine the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. Secondly, he also wanted to play with Guzi. He wanted to see Guzi's expression change from anticipation to disappointment and finally despair. Thinking of this, Yuhauran's face revealed a trace of a proud smile. Then, he stepped into the medicine field and began to choose spiritual herbs that could control a 3rd stage upper spiritual vein. It didn't take long. In less than 20 minutes, he had successfully found 6 spiritual herbs that could be used in conjunction with the detoxification pill to control the spiritual veins and divine souls. Then, he used a movement technique to rush straight to the Earth Origin Pavilion. When he returned to the Earth Origin Pavilion, he discovered that his second doppelganger had not been arranged to return. However, he did not wait for his second doppelganger. He directly jumped over the wall and entered the Earth Origin Pavilion, then went straight to the room on the west side of the first floor. This was because this was the room where Xiang Wenxuan had been poisoned by Gu Zi and then saved by him. After pushing open the door and entering the room, Yu Haoran discovered that Xiang Wenxuan was making use of the scorching spirit qi in the Earth Origin Pavilion to dispel the yin qi in the Black King Dragon's saliva. Hearing the door open, Xiang Wenxuan immediately opened his eyes warily and took a defensive stance. However, when he saw that the person who had entered the room was Yu Haoran, he heaved a sigh of relief and could not help but ask curiously, "Brother Yu, why haven't you left the Medicine Master Valley? There is no danger for the time being, and the environment in the Earth Origin Pavilion is so outstanding. Why would I be in a hurry to leave?" Yu Haoran explained with a smile. "Could it be that you have made peace with the Valley Head?" Xiang Wenxuan asked in surprise after hearing Yu Haoran's explanation, since there was no danger for the time being. Shaking his head, Yu Haoran did not explain further and only reminded Xiang Wenxuan. "Brother Xiang, Gu Zi will come looking for you in a short while. When that time comes, how will you face him?" Faced with Yu Haoran's reminder, Xiang Wenxuan did not know how to reply. Although he had already decided to leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters and become a free and unfettered independent alchemist, he was still very reluctant to leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters at the moment. After all, how could he give up on a relationship of more than 40 years just because he wanted to? "Brother Xiang, no matter what choice you make in the end, I will always respect you and treat you like an older brother." Yu Haoran walked to Xiang Wenxuan's side and patted him on the shoulder as he consoled him. Then, he turned and left the room. However, when he reached the door of the room, he suddenly stopped in his tracks and reminded him, "Brother Xiang, no matter whether you leave the Medicine Master Valley in the end or not, I hope that you will leave a few days later. Because the day after tomorrow, I plan to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill alone." After leaving these words of reminder, Yu Haoran walked out of the room and went up the stairs to the room that he had stayed in before. Sitting cross-legged on the bed with his eyes closed, he checked and consolidated his cultivation base and physical body grade that he had uncontrollably broken through while waiting for the return of the second doppelganger. Time was like flowing water, always passing by when you were not paying attention. 2 days and 2 nights had passed in the blink of an eye. As the stars disappeared and the sun rose from the east, Yu Haoran, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, slowly opened his eyes. A look of relief flashed across his face. Using pure spiritual qi to raise one's cultivation base and physical body grade seemed to have no side effect. However, breaking through under completely uncontrollable circumstances would cause damage to one's foundation and cause endless trouble. Fortunately, he had the experience of being a peak 9th grade martial king in his previous life and the assistance of Thaling's peak martial honorable divine sense, allowing him to discover it in time and use 2 days and 2 nights to completely eliminate the hidden danger. Taking a deep breath and slowly exhaling, Yu Haoran got up and left the room. He then left the loft through the stairs and came to the courtyard. "Brother Yu, good morning." Xiang Wenxuan, who was sitting on a stone chair in the courtyard, greeted Yu Haoran with a smile. "Brother Xiang, how's your recovery going?" Walking into the pavilion, Yu Haoran asked with a smile. "With the help of the pills you gave me and the scorching spiritual qi in the Earth Source Pavilion, I have completely recovered." Chapter 691 Medicine King Valley, Earth Source Pavilion. "Brother Yu, after I complete the refinement of the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, I will choose to leave Medicine King Valley," Xiang Wenxuan said solemnly. "Brother Xiang, you have really decided." Although his tone was very calm, Yu Haoran could not help but feel excited. As long as Xiang Wenxuan really left Medicine King Valley, then he had 100% confidence that he would willingly join Qingyun Peak. Nodding his head heavily, Xiang Wenxuan said with a bitter smile, I've discussed this with the Valley Master yesterday, and I've already received his approval. From now on, I'm a rogue alchemist. Old Brother Xiang, I promise you that it won't be long before you will feel incomparably fortunate for your decision this time. Yu Haoran placed his hand on Xiang Wenxuan's shoulder and solemnly guaranteed. Then I will count on your auspicious words, Xiang Wenxuan said with a forced smile. Seeing that Xiang Wenxuan did not believe his promise, Yu Haoran did not explain too much and suddenly changed the topic to his interpersonal relationship. Brother Xiang, is there anyone in Medicine King Valley who is on good terms with you and can help you without hesitation if you encounter any trouble in the future? There are a few alchemy grandmasters and a few talented disciples. Although Yu Haoran did not say it explicitly, Xiang Wenxuan had already guessed what he meant. He knew that Yu Haoran was doing his best to help him before he left Medicine King Valley. In half an hour, I will prepare to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate pill. Brother Xiang can invite the alchemists who are on good terms with you to come and observe, Yu Haoran suggested with a smile. I can really do that, Xiang Wenxuan confirmed further. Of course you can, Yu Haoran confirmed with a nod. Then I will go now. Xiang Wenxuan stood up happily and cupped his fists to thank Xiang Wenxuan before quickly leaving the pavilion and Earth Source Pavilion. Yu Haoran also got up and left the pavilion. He arrived at the location where he had decided to refine the pills 3 days ago and sat down cross-legged. Brother Hao. He summoned Victor's first doppelganger, which had returned to his sea of consciousness a day ago. Brother Yu. After leaving Victor, the first doppelganger sitting cross-legged in the sea of consciousness responded. Are you ready? Yu Haoran asked. Don't worry, Brother Yu. Just do it, the first clone said. After receiving encouragement from the first doppelganger, Yu Haoran directly took out the pill furnace and placed it in front of him. Then, he took out 108 types of spiritual herbs from his storage ring and placed them beside him in the order of melting and refining. Then, he closed his eyes and began to adjust his energy. Half an hour later, Yu Haoran suddenly opened his eyes as his essence, qi, and soul reached their peak state. He placed one hand on the alchemy furnace to activate the alchemy fire, while his other hand placed one spirit herb after another into the alchemy furnace according to the order he had arranged beforehand. Just as Yu Haoran began to melt and refine the spiritual herbs to refine the 5 Lives Profound Gate pill, Xiang Wenxuan, who had summoned his friends and juniors, brought some people to the Earth Source Pavilion. According to the number of people Xiang Wenxuan had given at the beginning, there should not have been more than 10 people present to observe the pill refinement. However, there were now more than 30 people following him into the Earth Source Pavilion. Xiang Wenxuan felt helpless about this, but there was nothing he could do. After all, 40 years of care and nurturing made it impossible for him to refuse Gu Zi's final request. After entering the Earth Source Pavilion, he saw Yu Haoran, who had already begun to melt and refine the spiritual herbs. Xiang Wenxuan hurriedly signaled for everyone to be quiet and warned them with his divine sense. Everyone, all of you were present at the scene of what happened 3 days ago. I'm sure you know that Grandmaster Yu's temper is not very good. Therefore, I hope that everyone can abide by our previous agreement and maintain absolute silence to avoid provoking Grandmaster Yu's displeasure. The bloody scene from 3 days ago was still fresh in everyone's mind. How could they possibly provoke Yu Haoran at this time? Furthermore, it could be said that being able to observe Grandmaster Yu's pill refinement techniques was a once-in-a-century opportunity. They could not possibly lose the opportunity to observe because of their own reasons. As stalk after stalk of spiritual herbs were rapidly melted and refined by the pill fire, Yu Haoran found that his speculation was correct. The pill fire of the pill furnace had been upgraded twice in a row, and its power had increased by at least 10 times. The speed at which it melted and refined the spiritual herbs had far surpassed the speed at which Xiang Wenxuan had used all of his strength to melt and refine the spiritual herbs in the Qing Yuan Guild Hall. This also made him completely relieved, and his confidence in refining the 5 Lives Abstruse Gate pill increased by 100-fold. 1.5 hours later, as the last spiritual herb was melted and refined by the pill furnace's pill fire, Yu Haoran called out to the first doppelganger in his spiritual sea. He then took out a few pills that contained soul power and a rank 5 grade 9 spirit stone. With the help of the scorching spiritual qi, he began to recover the soul power and yuanli that he had just consumed. Although he had used the pills and spirit stones to recover the soul power and yuanli that he had consumed, the spiritual liquid in the pill furnace did not stop condensing. This was because the first doppelganger was using the arm he had placed on the pill furnace to further purify and solidify the spiritual liquid in the pill furnace. Boom! Because the atmosphere was very quiet, everyone present could clearly feel the first dark thunder that formed when the 5 Lives Abstruse Gate pill was condensed. Those who were watching Yu Haoran refine pills for the first time were extremely shocked when they heard the dark thunder coming from the pill furnace. Xiang Wenxuan, on the other hand, frowned slightly. This was because he realized that when Yu Haoran refined the 5 Lives Abstruse Gate pill this time, the refining method was completely different from when he was in the Qingyuan Guild Hall's Qingya Pavilion. Could it be that Yu Haoran still had a special method to refine the 5 Lives Abstruse Gate pill? Half an hour later, as the soul power and yuanli returned to their peak, the first doppelganger in the spiritual sea gradually became a little tired. Yu Haoran immediately withdrew his hand from the pill furnace, and then quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers, taking over the first doppelganger to continue purifying and solidifying the spiritual liquid. Through the second perfect coordination, the spiritual liquid in the pill furnace had completely solidified into a pill. The next step was to divide the pill and form the pill. There was no need for the help of the first doppelganger. Therefore, the first doppelganger immediately returned to Victor, and then used Victor's ability to accelerate time to continue comprehending the pill master's inheritance. This would increase the success rate of refining the Iceheart Jade Bone pill. Just as Yu Haoran was using the pill fire in the pill furnace to continue nourishing the pill, 2 men and 1 woman suddenly appeared in the Earth Origin Pavilion. When he turned around and saw the 2 men and 1 woman who had suddenly appeared in the Earth Origin Pavilion, Xiang Wenxuan's expression couldn't help but change. He originally wanted to use his divine sense to question the silver-haired old man, but the other old man in embroidered clothes used his divine sense to warn him in advance. Wenxuan, since you have already left the Medicine King Valley, you have no right to interfere with anything that happens in the Medicine King Valley's Earth Origin Pavilion. Chapter 692. Medicine King Valley, Earth Origin Pavilion. Faced with the threat of the elder in embroidered robes, Xiang Wenxuan's face turned red with anger. Although he wanted to retaliate, he considered that if he did, he would not be able to control the burning anger in his heart and affect Yu Haoran's pill refinement. Therefore, after glaring at the silver-haired elder and the elder in embroidered robes with dissatisfaction, Xiang Wenxuan's attention returned to Yu Haoran, who was about to start dividing the pills. The girl among the 2 men and 1 woman was about 17 or 18 years old. She had long hair and a slender figure, but her appearance was extremely ugly. When she saw Yu Haoran sitting cross-legged on the ground with one hand pressed on the pill furnace with an extremely focused expression, the girl could not help but cover her mouth in shock as an expression of disbelief appeared in her eyes. However, everyone's attention was completely focused on Yu Haoran, who was about to divide the pills. No one noticed the girl's shocked reaction, including the silver-haired elder and the elder in embroidered robes who had brought her into the Earth Origin Pavilion. Raising his head to look at the dark clouds above his head that had been attracted by the pill condensation, Yu Haoran took a deep breath and withdrew his hand from the pill furnace. Then, his 10 fingers quickly formed the hand seal for dividing the pills. Perhaps it was because he had the experience of refining the 5 lives profound gate pill, or perhaps it was because of the second advancement of the pill fire in the pill furnace, as well as the help of the first clone of the alchemy venerable. This time, the process of dividing the pills was not only very smooth. There were a total of 5 pills, and the color of each pill and the density of the spiritual energy contained within were all very outstanding. They completely had the ability to withstand the lightning tribulation. 10 minutes later, as the pill fire in the pill furnace had warmed the 5 pills to the point where they were ready to come out of the furnace, Yuhauran raised his head to look at the sky again. The joy that had surged in his heart from the successful pill refinement was instantly dispelled by the dark clouds above his head. This was because the density of the dark clouds this time was at least 10 times thicker than when he had refined the 5 lives profound gate pill in the Qing Yuan Guild Hall. This also meant that the power of the pill tribulation was more than 10 times that of the first pill tribulation. He did not know how many 5 lives profound gate pills he would be able to form after successfully dividing the 5 pills. But no matter how many 5 lives profound gate pills were formed in the end, even if all of them were destroyed in the lightning tribulation. Now that he had reached the critical moment, Yuhauran could only temporarily suppress the messy thoughts in his heart and condense the pill imprint. Success! Following Yuhauran's shout, 5 sparkling and translucent pills flew out of the pill furnace at the same time and floated in the air. Immediately, 5 hair-thin lightning bolts shot out from the dark clouds above his head. Seeing the 5 medicinal pills withstand the first lightning tribulation, the might of which was similar to the one at the Clear Source Guild Hall, Yuhauran's nervous mood relaxed a little. When the second, third, and fourth bolts of tribulation lightning were about the same in power as the one in the Clear Source Guild Hall, and were easily blocked by the 5 pills, he was almost completely relieved. However, when the dark clouds accumulated the 5th lightning tribulation far longer than the one at the Clear Source Guild Hall, his relaxed mood immediately tensed up again. When the power of the lightning tribulation accumulated in the dark clouds reached its limit, 5 lightning dragons condensed from lightning bolts flew out and roared as they charged towards the 5 medicinal pills floating in the air. Yuhauran was so shocked that he almost stood up. However, his strong mental state cultivation allowed him to suppress his shock and continue to sit cross-legged and watch. The crowd watching the scene was dumbfounded as they watched the 5 lightning dragons hovering in the air and roaring at the medicinal pills. This was because they had never seen or even heard of a lightning tribulation transforming into a dragon in the cultivation of the pill Tao. After the 5 lightning dragons swallowed the 5 medicinal pills, the entire Earth Source Pavilion became so quiet that even the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. Everyone's attention was now focused on the lightning dragons hovering in the air after swallowing the 5 medicinal pills. Boom! As the first lightning dragon exploded, a pill the size of a longan and completely transparent medicinal pill floated in the air. His heart, which had just been tensed up, immediately relaxed by half. With one medicinal pill successfully passing the lightning tribulation, it at least proved that he had the ability to refine the 5 lives profound gate pill on his own. It also increased his confidence in refining the Iceheart Jade Bone pill on his own. Boom! As the second lightning dragon exploded, a second pill the size of a longan and the same transparent medicinal pill was revealed. Yuhauran was completely relieved. Of the 2 5 lives profound gate pills, one would be given to his master to greatly increase his mental state cultivation. The other would be used as a betrothal gift to raise the reputation of Clear Cloud Peak and himself. Boom! As the third lightning dragon exploded and revealed the third medicinal pill that had successfully passed the lightning tribulation, Yuhauran's face instantly revealed a happy smile. 3 medicinal pills, which meant that the 5 lives profound gate pill this time was not only very successful, But the quality of the medicinal pills were also far better than the first 5 lives profound gate pill. It was even more beneficial for increasing his confidence in refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill. More importantly, one more 5 lives profound gate pill meant that he had one more trump card to use in the negotiations with the Medicine King Valley. Therefore, when he saw the 4th and 5th lightning dragons explode, apart from 2 piles of black ashes, he wasn't too disappointed. With a wave of his hand, he collected the black ashes floating in the air and watched as the dense clouds and lightning above his head began to transform into milky white energy. When the dense clouds and lightning that had reached a length of 5 meters had all transformed into milky white energy, Yuhauran closed his eyes and allowed the strong suction force to automatically form in his body to devour the milky white energy in the air. After that, he secretly used the Great Mystery Heart Sutra and the Star Fighting Mantra to completely eliminate the hidden dangers that might continue to exist after his uncontrolled advancement. He also further strengthened his foundation and raised his own potential. But it was a pity that when he was at the Qingyuan Guild Hall, there was only one 5 lives profound gate pill that was the reward from the heavenly way after he separated from the lightning tribulation. It allowed him to borrow the milky white energy and benefit greatly in the end. And this time, there were 3 5 lives profound gate pills competing with him for the milky white energy. This allowed him to use the milky white energy to eliminate the hidden dangers that even the Thowling formation did not detect. The milky white energy that was transformed by the dense clouds and lightning in the air was completely absorbed. Regarding this, Yuhauran was only slightly disappointed, but he did not care too much. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, he directly put away the 5 lives profound gate pills. Yuhauran, the Medicine King Valley will take these 3 5 lives profound gate pills. Just name your price. Just when Yuhauran had just put away the 3 5 lives profound gate pills, a deep but very domineering voice suddenly came from behind him. Chapter 693. Medicine King Valley, Earth Source Pavilion. Head was a term used to describe wild beasts and strange beasts under normal circumstances. After hearing Yuhauran's mocking words, the face of the old man in embroidered clothes, who had demanded the 5 lives mysterious gate elixir in an overbearing manner, darkened. Then, a thick murderous aura condensed into a pill furnace and smashed heavily towards Yuhauran. Yuhauran did not panic in the slightest in the face of the alchemy furnace formed by the dense murderous aura. He also used his own murderous aura to condense the murderous aura into a flood dragon with the help of the 7 transformations of the flood dragon to meet the incoming alchemy furnace. Although the murderous aura had already reached a substantial level, it was limited by one's cultivation and the effects of killing. The quantity and quality of the murderous aura could not be compared to the energy in the Dantian. Therefore, the flood dragon condensed by the murderous aura was only about 3 meters long. It was simply no match for the pill furnace condensed by the old man's murderous aura. Yuhauran couldn't help but shake his head in disappointment as he watched the flood dragon condensed by the murderous aura collide with the pill furnace and shatter into pieces. However, he didn't really care. Using the flood dragon condensed by the murderous aura to meet the pill furnace was mainly to show his attitude that he would never yield. His true trump card was the spirit vein spirit that had been secretly observing him. Could it be that you don't want to eradicate the poison of the life-devouring elixir? Yuhauran lowered his head to the ground and threatened softly. Following Yuhauran's threat, a transparent defensive barrier instantly appeared in front of him and smashed the pill furnace into pieces. Yuhauran, what kind of technique is this? Although he was shocked by Yuhauran's murderous aura at such a young age, what really shocked him was the defensive barrier that had suddenly appeared. Because that defensive barrier gave him a very familiar feeling. Yuhauran glanced coldly at the old man in embroidered robes before turning around. He then used medicinal pills and spirit stones, as well as the scorching spiritual energy in the Earth Origin Pavilion, to recover the soul power and origin energy, he had used to refine the 5 lives profound gate. "Yu Haoran, do you know who I am?" Seeing Yu Haoran ignore him, the old man in embroidered clothes shouted with a ferocious expression, forcibly demanding the 5 lives mystery gate pill and indiscriminately trying to kill me, Yu Haoran, such an unreasonable and insidious villain. In the entire Medicine King Valley, except for the famous head elder Gao Xingjie, I'm afraid no one would dare to do this. In any case, he had the protection of a high-grade rank 3 spirit vein. No one could do anything to him. Therefore, Yu Haoran had originally planned to ignore the old man. But after hearing the old man's arrogant question, he finally couldn't help but mock him. "Since you know who I am, why don't you hurry up and state the conditions for the 3 5 lives mystery gate pills? Otherwise, the 3 5 lives mystery gate pills will be your reward for using the Earth Origin Pavilion to refine pills." Gao Xingjie was enraged by Yu Haoran's mockery and shamelessly threatened him. "Gao Xingjie, you can give it a try." Yu Haoran coldly glared at Gao Xingjie, provoking him with disdain. "Head Elder, have you had enough?" At first, he wasn't willing to counter Gao Xingjie's threat because he was worried that it would affect Yu Haoran's refining. Now that Yu Haoran had succeeded in refining the pills and the head elder was shamelessly demanding the 5 lives mystery gate pill, Xiang Wenxuan was furious. He didn't need to suppress his anger anymore and directly reprimanded Yu Haoran. "As the mentor of the thousands of alchemists in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, your actions just now are not worthy of the title of mentor. Aren't you afraid that the thousands of alchemists in the valley will be disappointed and leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters like me? Xiang Wenxuan, you are no longer an elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. You have no right to interfere in the matters of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. If you continue to cause trouble, I will kill you on the spot in the name of an enemy invasion." After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's words, Gao Xingjie didn't feel the slightest bit of emotion and continued to threaten him with a sinister expression. "Gao, if you dare to touch a single hair on Brother Xiang's head, do you believe that I won't cripple you?" Yu Haoran, who had originally wanted to ignore Gao Xingjie, threatened him furiously when he saw that Gao Xingjie was about to make a move on Xiang Wenxuan. "You dare threaten me?" Gao Xingjie couldn't help but laugh coldly in the face of Yu Haoran's threat and then walked towards Xiang Wenxuan step by step. "Head Elder, what's the matter with you?" The silver-haired old man who had followed the head elder into the Earth Origin Pavilion was the valley head of the Medicine Masters, Gu Zi. Gu Zi frowned and asked when he saw that the head elder seemed to have lost control of his mind and was about to kill Xiang Wenxuan in front of everyone. His impression of the head elder was that he was a very gentle person who did things politely and tactfully. Otherwise, he wouldn't have handed over most of the authority in the valley to the head elder. Actually, Gu Zi wasn't the only one who didn't understand why the head elder had lost control of himself. All the alchemists of the Medicine Masters present had puzzled expressions on their faces. Unfortunately, the head elder didn't seem to have heard Gu Zi's reprimand and continued to walk towards Xiang Wenxuan with a sinister expression. He obviously wanted to kill Xiang Wenxuan in return for Yu Haoran's earlier threat. Forcefully using heavenly treasures to raise his cultivation to the peak of the 9th grade martial saint has caused his foundation to be weak and his mind to be unstable. Yu Haoran stood up and informed the spirit vein soul to be ready to attack at any time as he repeated Thaling's judgment. Facing the 5 lives profound gate pill that can help one break through to the 3rd tribulation of the quasi-martial honorable realm, he has completely lost control of his mind. At this point, Yu Haoran couldn't help but gloat at Gu Zi's misfortune. "Valley Head, if we allow Gao Xingjie to continue like this, he will completely lose control of his mind in at most 10 minutes and trigger a backlash from his inner demons. Eventually, he will go berserk and his soul will be destroyed. Yu Haoran, how can we save the head elder?" After hearing Yu Haoran's explanation and combining it with the head elder's somewhat crazy state, Gu Zi knew that his earlier warning wasn't an exaggeration and immediately asked anxiously. First, he let the spirit vein soul set up a defensive barrier in front of Xiang Wenxuan to prevent Gao Xingjie's sudden outburst from harming Xiang Wenxuan. Then, he looked coldly at Gu Zi and said, "Valley Head, I don't care about the conflict that happened 3 days ago and allowed the alchemists in the valley to observe the alchemy techniques on the spot. This is enough for the Medicine King Valley. But how did Gao Xingjie treat me?" At this point, Yu Haoran pointed at Gao Xingjie and reprimanded him with an angry expression. He directly asked for 3 5 lives profound gate pills. If he couldn't get them, he directly used the pill furnace condensed from his murderous aura to kill me. Now, he wants to kill my brother Xiang Wenxuan. Chapter 694. Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Origin Pavilion. Yu Haoran, name your price. Facing Yu Haoran's angry accusation, Gu Zi, who had already guessed his true thoughts, couldn't help but laugh coldly in his heart, then said coldly, "An alchemy grandmaster whose name shakes the entire profound sky continent, an expert at the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm who can influence the entire world. I wonder how much the first elder is worth in Valley Lord's eyes?" Yu Haoran asked in a similarly cold manner. After closing his eyes and thinking for a while, Gu Zi opened his eyes and said, "1 chance to enter the Pill Scripture Pavilion. Not enough." Shaking his head, Yu Haoran rejected flatly. In his previous life, he had used poison to help the Valley of the Medicine Masters kill a mortal enemy who was proficient in the law of speed, thus obtaining the chance to enter the Pill Scripture Pavilion. He was full of admiration for the Alchemy Sutra Pavilion's collection of countless alchemy secrets, thousands of alchemy recipes of different grades, and personal notes of the Grand Master and Great Grandmaster realms. However, due to time constraints, he could only record 6 pill recipes and read the personal notes of the 3 pill Dao Grandmasters. Therefore, after his rebirth, he had thought of entering the Pill Scripture Pavilion. But just 1 chance to enter the Pill Scripture Pavilion was not enough for him to save Gao Xingjie. Because the way to save Gao Xingjie was to use the 5 lives profound gate pill that made him lose control of his mind. 1 chance to use the sacred pond to cleanse the marrow. Knowing that Yu Haoran would not fulfill this condition, Gu Zi continued to say, "Using the sacred pond to cleanse the marrow, achieve a complete transformation, and have the potential to become Emperor Wu. Could it be that your Valley of the Medicine Masters experiment has already succeeded?" Hearing Gu Zi's second condition, Yu Haoran asked in shock. The sacred pond to cleanse the marrow was proposed by the 7th Valley Lord of the Medicine Masters Valley. The 7th Valley Lord of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was a person with very ordinary talent in martial arts and alchemy, but his tenacious willpower, fearless courage, and inexplicable luck allowed him to stand out from millions of ordinary people and finally become a great grandmaster at the pinnacle of alchemy. Feeling the disparagement he suffered because of his innate talent, as well as the various sufferings he endured, Yang Kai, who had a kind heart, wanted to use the method of alchemy to create a kind of secret treasure that could achieve rebirth and improve one's potential. The sacred pond to cleanse the marrow was created with this idea. However, after tens of thousands of years and hundreds of Valley Lords' efforts and experiments, this secret treasure had never been successfully refined. Even before his rebirth, when he lived the sacred pond, the sacred pond to cleanse the marrow was still in the experimental stage. Therefore, he was shocked when Gu Zi proposed to use the Saint Pond's marrow cleansing artifact. The sacred pond marrow cleansing artifact was not a secret in Medicine King's Valley, so Yu Haoran being aware of the sacred pond marrow cleansing artifact's effects did not surprise Gu Zi. Shaking his head, Gu Zi explained, "The sacred pond's marrow cleansing artifact has not been successfully refined, but it has the heaven-defying effect of directly increasing one's cultivation without any side effects. The sacred pill. Guzi pill, pill, guis pill, 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 pill. After hearing Guzi's explanation, Yu Haoran was disappointed and shook his head. As a grandmaster at the peak of the pill Tao, I have many ways to directly improve my cultivation. I don't need the sacred pond to cleanse the marrow, so this condition doesn't count. Seeing that Yu Haoran was not interested in the sacred pond to directly improve his cultivation, Guzi was slightly disappointed. Then, he proposed a third condition. One chance to receive the inheritance of the alchemy master. Valley Lord, you are not being honest. Yu Haoran couldn't help but sneer when he heard that Guzi's third condition was the inheritance of the alchemy master. When I first entered the Valley of the Medicine Masters, you promised me that you would give me a chance to receive the inheritance of the alchemy master. Why are you using the inheritance of the alchemy master as a condition now? Grandmaster Yu, I promised you a chance to receive the inheritance of the alchemy master. In the face of Yu Haoran's sarcasm, Guzi was not angry at all. Instead, he retorted politely. But the condition is that I help you complete the refining of the 5 Lives Mystery Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir. I also want to observe your refining techniques at a close distance. At this point, Guzi looked straight into Yu Haoran's eyes and asked, "But how did you do it?" This. In the face of Guzi's rebuttal, Yu Haoran was suddenly speechless and didn't know how to refute. Although 3 days ago, he refused to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir on the spot because of the conflict with Xiaoyingjie, all of this had little to do with Guzi. So, in the end, it was he who broke the agreement first. However, the first clone had successfully received the inheritance of the alchemy master. Now, the inheritance of the alchemy master in the medicine field was only an empty shell. How could he be willing to accept this condition? So, Yu Haoran pretended to be unhappy and shook his head to refuse. I have to walk my own path. I am no longer interested in the inheritance of the alchemy master, so this condition doesn't count. You! In the face of Yu Haoran, who took the initiative to give up the inheritance of the alchemy master, it was Guzi's turn to be speechless and didn't know what to say. Because the inheritance of the alchemy master was his trump card to force Yu Haoran to agree to save the first elder. But if Yu Haoran refused to accept the inheritance of the alchemy master, then he, who had lost his trump card, really didn't know what price he could pay in exchange for Yu Haoran's help. Valley Master, let me make the conditions. Seeing Guzi in deep thought, Yu Haoran knew that he had not thought of the conditions to save the first elder at all. Although taking the initiative to make conditions was not conducive to the next negotiation, Yu Haoran didn't want to and couldn't continue to delay. Because the first elder, who had started to attack the defensive shield set up by the spiritual vein Divine Soul, was getting more and more out of control. If he continued to delay, he was afraid that the 5 Lives Mystery Pill would lose its effect to save him. Say it. Guzi's spirit was lifted and he hurriedly signaled. But then, worried that Yu Haoran would ask for too much, Guzi immediately put forward a limited condition. Grandmaster Yu, including the opportunity to enter the alchemy chamber, you can only make 2 conditions at most. Okay. Yu Haoran, who had only intended to make 2 conditions, nodded in agreement. Then, he said his first condition. The spiritual herbs in the 10,000 mu of herb field, without any restrictions on the grade and type, I can choose 10. This. In the face of Yu Haoran's first condition, Guzi immediately fell into a dilemma. Because in the 10,000 mu of herb field, in addition to the ordinary spiritual herbs, there were a few rare spiritual herbs around the 3rd level. He was worried that Yu Haoran's real target was the rare spiritual herbs that had been cultivated for thousands of years. And those rare spiritual herbs were also one of the key means of the Medicine King Valley's strength in the future. Chapter 695. Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Source Pavilion. Alright, I agree. After hearing Yuhauran's warning, Guzi hurriedly turned his head to look at the Great Elder who was frantically attacking the defensive barrier. Finally, he gritted his teeth and agreed. The second condition is that the Valley Head swears by the heavenly Tao that you, including all the martial sages in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, cannot take revenge on Xiang Wenxuan after he leaves the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Otherwise, your soul will fall into hell forever. Brother you don't have to waste such a good opportunity for me. Hearing Yuhauran use one of the two conditions to guarantee his safety after leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Xiang Wenxuan was touched and hurriedly tried to persuade him. Yuhauran shook his head at Xiang Wenxuan, indicating that he didn't need to say anything more. He looked at Guzi and waited for his reply. Using one of the two conditions to ensure Xiang Wenxuan's safety was not only to please Xiang Wenxuan and lay the groundwork for recruiting him in the future, but also to test Guzi to see what he was thinking when he readily agreed to Xiang Wenxuan's request some time ago. Was he willing or did he have evil intentions? Faced with Yuhauran's second condition, Guzi seemed a little hesitant. Yuhauran couldn't help but sneer at his hesitation. It also made Xiang Wenxuan angry and completely give up on Guzi and the Valley of the Medicine Masters. 3 minutes, at most 3 minutes, the Great Elder will completely lose control of his mind and trigger a backlash from his inner demons. Seeing that Guzi didn't reply for a long time, Yuhauran continued to remind him with a sneer. I, Guzi, swear by the heavenly Tao that from today onwards, I, including all the martial sages in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, will never take revenge on Xiang Wenxuan. Yuhauran's reminder was like a death sentence. After a short consideration, Guzi decided to swear by the heavenly Tao in exchange for the Great Elder's recovery. After all, comparing a Pill Grandmaster to a Pill Grandmaster, a peak 9th grade martial king to a peak 9th grade martial saint, it was clear who was more important. If you break the oath, your soul will fall into hell forever. Here. After hearing Guzi swear by the heavenly Tao, Yuhauran took out a 5 lives profound gate pill that he had just refined and threw it to Guzi. Not only can the profound gate of 5 lives pill calm the uncontrollable state of mind, it can also help him pass through the heart tribulation of the quasi-martial honorable realm with the help of the medicinal power of the 5 lives reincarnation dream. From there, he can become the strongest person in the Tianxian continent. So, you didn't lose out in the exchange just now. Reaching out to take the 5 lives mysterious gate pill, Guzi coldly glanced at Yuhauran, then closed his eyes and contacted the soul of the rank 3 upper grade spiritual vein. After all, the first elder's strength was too strong, and he was in a state where he had lost control of his mind. At this moment, no one dared to approach him. Therefore, he could only rely on the stronger spirit vein divine soul to suppress the Great Elder so that he could help the Great Elder consume the 5 lives profound gate pill. After instructing the spirit vein divine soul to help the grains, Yuhauran turned around and walked towards the pill furnace. His gaze inadvertently glanced at the incomparably ugly girl. Then, he used his divine telepathy to call out to her. Junior Meng, I really didn't think that you and I would meet again in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. That's right, the ugly girl who had followed the Great Elder into the Earth Source Pavilion was a disciple from the 100 Chi Gates Heart Moon sect. She was also Meng Yujie, whom he had befriended in the Blue Moon secret realm. Originally, according to the trajectory of events in his previous life, it should have been when the Valley Master of the Medicine Masters was out traveling, passing by the Heart Moon sect and accidentally discovering Meng Yujie's outstanding talent in cultivating spiritual medicine. Then, Guzi changed his name to Yao Lao and secretly conducted a comprehensive test on Meng Yujie. After the test, Guzi was not only very satisfied with her temperament and character, but also discovered that she had the body of the medicine spirit, which was ranked 25th among the tens of thousands of unique body constitutions. Therefore, after Gu Zi revealed his true identity in the Heart Moon sect, he publicly accepted Meng Yujie as his disciple and brought her back to the Valley of the Medicine Masters, officially starting her future path to becoming a strong person. However, with his rebirth and his involvement in many things, he had changed the trajectory of many things in the future. Yu Haoran discovered that Meng Yujie had been brought back to the Valley of the Medicine Masters at least half a year earlier. Moreover, based on the few days he had stayed in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, he knew that the person who had been traveling during this period was the Great Elder. This also meant that the Great Elder had discovered her outstanding talent in the way of the pill and had taken the initiative to accept her as his disciple and bring her back to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. He saw from the corner of his eye that Meng Yujie was about to open her mouth to speak and quickly used his divine sense to remind her. "Junior Meng, don't speak. You also saw what happened just now. My relationship with the Valley of the Medicine Masters is not very harmonious. If the people of the Valley of the Medicine Masters know of our relationship, I'm afraid they won't make use of your future cultivation and life in the Valley of the Medicine Masters." He saw Meng Yujie biting her lips and knew that she had a lot to say to him. He thought for a moment and said, "Junior Meng, I will leave a tracking divine sense on your body and promise that when I leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters, I will definitely see you alone." Apart from bonding, Yu Haoran's real intention was to pave the way for him to win over Meng Yujie in the future. After all, with the spirit medicine body ranked 25th among the thousands of special body constitutions, Meng Yujie's future achievements in the way of the pill would at least be at the peak of the Sage Realm, which was the peak of the Pill Grandmaster Realm. If combined with the careful guidance of the first clone, it was very likely that she would become a Pill Emperor. If Qingyun Peak had both Xiang Wenshuan and Meng Yujie, two pill masters with unlimited potential in the way of the pill, Qingyun Peak would very likely become another holy land of the pill Dao in the future. After all, the Valley of the Medicine Masters that had lost the level 3 upper spirit vein and the inheritance of the pill venerable were inevitable in the future. After hearing Yu Haoran's promise, Meng Yujie's face immediately revealed a happy smile. She looked at Yu Haoran with eyes full of surprise and trust. Returning to the pill furnace, he sat down cross-legged and continued to use the pills that he had just swallowed to recover the soul power and yuan qi that he had used to refine the 5 lives abstruse gate pill. With the help of the level 3 upper spirit vein, Gu Zi finally delivered the 5 lives abstruse gate pill into the mouth of the head elder. And Gao Xingjie, who had consumed the 5 lives abstruse gate pill, gradually calmed down. "Master Yu, I was rude just now. I apologize to you here." Gao Xingjie, who had regained his consciousness, took the lead to apologize to Yu Haoran. "It's okay." In response, Yu Haoran did not turn back and only responded indifferently. "Yujie, Master needs to use the 5 lives abstruse gate pill to overcome a tribulation, so the ceremony will be held again after I overcome the tribulation." Facing Yu Haoran's cold response, Gao Xingjie did not mind and looked at Meng Yujie with a gentle expression. Chapter 696. Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Origin Pavilion. Seeing that his new disciple was so obedient and sensible, Gao Xingjie smiled with gratification. Then, he looked at Gu Zi and stopped smiling. He ordered with a serious expression, "Valley Master, send me back to Yu Pavilion immediately. I want to borrow the effect of the 5 lives mystery gate pill to pass the test and become a martial honorable." "Elder, don't worry. I will entrust the Venerable Dragon God and the other 3 martial honorables to protect me in secret." Gu Zi used his origin energy to wrap around Gao Xingjie and brought him out of Earth Origin Pavilion while whispering in his ear. Nodding, Gao Xingjie did not say anything else. He closed his eyes and gradually entered the dream realm. After more than 10 minutes of recuperation, Yuhauran's soul power and elemental energy had fully recovered, allowing his essence, energy, and spirit to return to their peak. He took out the 365 spiritual herbs needed to refine the Iceheart Jade Bone Pill from his storage ring and arranged them according to the order of melting and refining. "Brother Yu, do you need my help?" Seeing that Yuhauran was surrounded by spirit herbs of different grades and types, Wen Xian was worried that Yuhauran would not be able to refine so many spirit herbs in one go, so he suggested to Wen Xian. After shaking his head and rejecting Xiang Wenshuan's kind intentions, Yuhauran took a deep breath and extended his right hand to press on the pill furnace. He mobilized his yuan power to drive the dantian flame, while his left hand threw stalk after stalk of elixir into the pill furnace. In his mind, not only was the first clone ready to receive him, the second clone had placed many pills and level 4 spirit stones in front of it. Although the Iceheart Jade Bone Pill was 1 grade higher than the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill, both pills were aimed at the Martial Honorable's 3rd Calamity Gate Pill. There was not much difference in their effects. The reason why the Iceheart Jade Bone Pill required twice as many spiritual herbs as the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill was because it required a more comprehensive effect. However, the grade of the spiritual herbs was not very high. Therefore, it would take 1.5 hours to refine the 108 spiritual herbs needed for the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill. Now, in 1.5 hours, he had already melted and purified more than 210 types of spiritual herbs. Of course, his soul power and elemental energy had already reached their limit. Brother Ran. Yuhauran separated a strand of his consciousness and called out to the second clone in his sea of consciousness. The second clone immediately poured all of his soul power and origin energy into Yuhauran's dantian and sea of consciousness. After that, he immediately swallowed a pill that he had prepared beforehand. Holding a rank 4 grade 1 spirit stone in his hand, he began to restore the soul power and origin energy he had transferred to Yuhauran. Yuhauran, who had recovered to his peak after receiving all of the soul power and elemental energy from the second doppelganger, instantly regained his initial speed of refining spirit herbs. However, as he refined more and more spirit herbs, the volume of spirit liquid condensed in the pill furnace also increased, requiring him to expend more soul power and origin power to maintain it. This caused the second half of the extraction process to not only take longer and longer, but also consumed more soul power and elemental energy. In total, he borrowed the second clone's soul power and elemental energy input 6 times before he barely managed to melt and purify all 365 types of spirit herbs. Fortunately, in the refining process of the Iceheart Jade Bone Pill, he was able to successfully refine the spirit herbs, which was the most difficult and also the most uncertain part of the refining process. After that, his right hand continued to press on the pill furnace while his left hand swallowed a large number of pills. Yuhauran hurriedly recovered his soul power and origin energy that had been depleted to the limit. The second doppelganger in his sea of consciousness immediately formed seals with its 10 fingers and began to compress and refine the spirit liquid that was about the size of 3 watermelons in the pill furnace. Oppressive. Just as the second doppelganger began to compress and solidify the spirit liquid through the seal, the originally clear sky gradually darkened. The entire Earth Origin Pavilion was filled with an extremely oppressive atmosphere. Unlike refining the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill, the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill had dark clouds above it due to dark lightning. Although the Iceheart Jade Bone Pill did not have dark lightning during the pill condensation process, it was still heaven-defying. Not only did it directly change the weather in a certain area, but the entire Medicine King Valley was also shrouded in dark clouds. After making arrangements for the first elder, Guzi returned to the Earth Origin Pavilion. When he sensed the strange phenomenon occurring in the Earth Origin Pavilion, He immediately took out 4 night luminescent pearls that emitted a dazzling light from his storage ring and placed them in the 4 corners of the Earth Origin Pavilion. This was so that the pill refiners present would not miss the opportunity to use pills and spirit stones to recover their soul power and origin power and take over the first doppelganger's pill condensation technique due to the sudden darkness. As the pill condensation imprints were imprinted on the spirit liquid in the pill furnace one after another, the spirit liquid that had been compressed by the first doppelganger continued to shrink and its color gradually became brighter. You do it, I do it, I do it. After 9 rounds of perfect coordination with the first doppelganger, the spirit liquid that was originally the size of 3 watermelons was finally compressed and purified into a pill the size of an apple. Yuhauran gestured to the second clone in his sea of consciousness to continue channeling all of his soul power and origin energy into his sea of consciousness and Dantian. Then, he placed both of his hands on the pill furnace and activated the strongest power of the pill furnace's fire. He began to compress and refine the solidified pills one last time. When the apple-sized pill was compressed to the size of a walnut, Yuhauran immediately reduced the input of origin power and quietly weakened the pill fire's power to begin the nourishing stage. Brother Hao, Brother Ran, thank you for your hard work. You should return to the victor to rest first. Yuhauran said to the 2 doppelgangers in his knowledge sea as he used pills and spirit stones to recover his soul power and origin power. Brother Yu, there are 3 most important steps in refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. Indicating for the second doppelganger to return to the realm spirit, the first doppelganger instructed Yuhauran. The first step is to extract the spirit herbs, the second step is to solidify the spirit liquid, and the third step is to nourish the spirit. Although we are not 100% perfect in extracting the spirit herbs and solidifying the spirit liquid, we can still satisfy the final requirement of forming the pill. The third step, nourishing the spirit, is related to whether or not the pill can survive the lightning tribulation after it is formed. Therefore, Brother Yu, you must not rush to open the furnace and produce the pill. You must nourish the pill to its limit before you can take it out. Don't worry, Brother Hao, I will remember. Nodding, Yuhauran indicated that he understood. As the pill in the pill furnace entered the nourishing stage, the dark clouds that shrouded the entire Medicine King Valley became thicker and thicker. The oppressive atmosphere became heavier and heavier. A few disciples with weaker mental states could not bear the oppressive atmosphere and finally took the initiative to leave the Earth Source Pavilion. Chapter 697 Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Origin Pavilion. The nourishing process of the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir was divided into 2 stages. The first stage was to nourish the compressed and purified elixirs. The second stage was to nourish the elixirs that had been separated. Before the first clone had returned to Victor, he had specifically instructed him to nourish the elixirs that had been separated. After all, the few elixirs that had been separated were the ones that truly had to withstand the lightning tribulation. After successfully overcoming it, they would absorb the power of the lightning tribulation and have the ability to assist a quasi-martial honor in overcoming the body tribulation. Retracting his right hand that had been pressing against the pill furnace, his 10 fingers quickly formed the seal for separating the elixirs and began to separate the elixirs in the pill furnace. The entire process of separating the elixirs went very smoothly. Not only were there 4 elixirs formed in the end, but the quality and purity of each elixir were also very outstanding. This made Yuhauran secretly heave a sigh of relief. Next was the most important and final step of the refining process of the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir. He had to nourish the 4 elixirs with all his might so that they would have the ability to withstand the lightning tribulation. As the refining of the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir reached its final stage, The black clouds that enveloped the entire valley of the Medicine Masters not only caused the 4 luminous pearls in the Earth Origin Pavilion to lose their dazzling light, but the entire black clouds also rumbled with the sound of thunder, giving off a feeling that the end of the world had arrived. Although the atmosphere in the Earth Origin Pavilion was very oppressive, no one present chose to leave. This was because they knew very well that they might be witnessing a miracle on the path of pill cultivation. And witnessing such a miracle would bring unimaginable benefits to their pill hearts as pill cultivators, as well as their future understanding of pill cultivation. The dark environment did not have much of an effect on Guzi, whose cultivation had reached the martial sage realm. Looking at Yuhauran, who was sitting cross-legged in front of the pill furnace and concentrating on nourishing the elixirs, a trace of struggle surfaced in Guzi's eyes. His struggle was not because he wanted to give up on using the Demon Way secret technique to extract Yuhauran's spiritual body, but because he was considering when to make his move. After nearly 4 days of relentless investigation, even spending a large amount of resources and using the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion's information network, they still hadn't found a single trace of Zhao Qing. And Yuhauran, who was about to finish refining the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir, would probably immediately leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters and head to the Emperor Qin Kingdom to attend his engagement ceremony with Princess Ling Fei. If they did not seize the opportunity to capture Yuhauran before he left the Valley of the Medicine Masters, it would not be so easy to find an opportunity to capture him alive in the future. However, if he were to make a move now, based on the impact of Yuhauran refining the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir and the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir, if the alchemists in the valley were to find out, it would have a very negative impact. It might even cause many alchemists to leave the Medicine King Valley. Boom! However, when a thunderous roar came from the black clouds above his head that made even him, a martial sage, tremble in fear, Guzi finally made up his mind. Then, taking advantage of the dark surroundings and the fact that everyone's attention was on Yuhauran, he quietly left the Earth Source Pavilion. After nearly an hour of nourishment, the 4 elixirs in the cauldron had already accumulated to the limit of their energy. If he continued to nourish them, it was very likely that the cauldron would explode. Boom! The elixirs are done. Thus, following the continuous roar above his head, Yuhauran suddenly pressed his hands on the cauldron and roared. Following Yuhauran's roar, 4 elixirs that were slightly larger than a longan flew out of the cauldron. Boom! The moment the 4 elixirs flew out of the cauldron, the lightning tribulation was different from the one for the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir. The lightning accumulated in the black clouds struck the 4 elixirs like a storm. Following the crackling sounds, 2 of the 4 elixirs that flew out of the cauldron were directly blasted into powder. This made Yuhauran, who was already very nervous, unable to help but feel anxious. Fortunately, after the first wave of lightning, the 2 elixirs that stubbornly withstood the first wave of lightning tribulation became even more sparkling and translucent. Vaguely, veins that resembled human meridians appeared inside the elixirs. "You have to hold on." Looking up at the 2 elixirs floating in the air, Yuhauran secretly prayed. Following Yuhauran's prayer, a giant palm completely condensed from lightning suddenly reached out from the black clouds above his head and fiercely grabbed the 2 elixirs floating in the air. Hand of Punishment! Seeing the hand of lightning reaching out from the black clouds, Yuhauran suddenly stood up and cried out in disbelief. The Hand of Punishment was a method used by the Heavenly Tao to punish people who violated oaths or committed heinous crimes. And he was just refining elixirs to help a quasi-martial honorable expert pass through the body tribulation. How could it attract the Hand of Punishment? The alchemy grandmasters present, who also knew the origin of the Hand of Punishment, immediately retreated with their disciples or relatives. They only stopped when they had exited the Earth Origin Pavilion. Because the Hand of Punishment was extremely powerful, they were worried that they would suffer an unexpected disaster. Only Xiang Wenxuan and Meng Yujie did not leave. Xiang Wenxuan did not leave because he was willing to accompany Yu Haoran to face the hand of punishment. As for Meng Yujie, due to her background, she did not know the origin of the hand of punishment. Yu Haoran, don't be nervous. That is not the hand of punishment. It is just an imitation of the lightning tribulation. It does not even have a billionth of the hand of punishment's power. Just as Yu Haoran was considering whether to ask Xiang Wenxuan and Meng Yujie to leave the Earth Origin Pavilion, Thaling reminded him in his mind. Thaling, even if it is not the hand of punishment, the two elixirs will not be able to withstand the attack of the lightning palm. Although Thaling's reminder extinguished Yu Haoran's thoughts of leaving the Earth Origin Pavilion, he was extremely dejected when he saw the two elixirs about to be destroyed by the lightning palm. That may not be the case. In contrast to Yu Haoran's dejection, Thaling was filled with confidence in the two elixirs. The lightning palm directly grabbed the two elixirs and clenched its 5 fingers, intending to crush the two elixirs. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, Yu Haoran's tightly clenched palm loosened. The 2 pills were still tenaciously surviving and were not destroyed under the rubbing of the giant palm. This made Yu Haoran couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. After failing to destroy the 2 elixirs, the lightning palm did not continue its attack. Instead, it directly exploded. A portion of the lightning formed by the explosion returned to the black clouds, while the rest merged with the 2 elixirs. As for the elixirs that had merged with the lightning, the vein-like patterns became even clearer. The final tribulation. Yu Haoran sighed as he looked at the black clouds churning above his head. Chapter 698. Medicine King Valley, Earth Origin Pavilion. The dark clouds above his head accumulated lightning energy for a full 5 minutes. Then, 3 lightning dragons that were over 20 meters long flew out, their bodies emitting dazzling light. Yu Haoran, as the person who refined the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, you are also part of the lightning tribulation this time. Seeing that there were actually 3 lightning dragons flying out of the black clouds, Thaling suddenly thought of a rumor and hurriedly reminded Lin Yun. How can this be? After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran's first reaction was that he was also part of the tribulation. After all, in his countless adventures in the ruins in his previous life, he had seen countless alchemy masters and grandmasters. Even in the records left behind by the Pill Emperor, he had never heard of alchemy masters having to go through the tribulation with their pills. However, when he saw the 3 lightning dragons flying out of the black clouds, the largest and most powerful one bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws charged towards him, Yu Haoran had no choice but to believe the pagoda spirit's warning. He was also one of the people undergoing this pill tribulation. Use the pill furnace to deal with the lightning dragon. However, he had never thought that he would also be attacked by a lightning dragon formed by the lightning tribulation, causing him to be completely unprepared. Even if he used all of his soul power and elemental energy, it would not have any effect against a lightning dragon formed by lightning. Therefore, since his rebirth, this was the first time Yu Haoran felt helpless. Luckily, Thaling had already thought of a countermeasure and hurriedly reminded him. After hearing Thaling's reminder, a thought flashed across Yu Haoran's mind. He immediately used all of his soul power and elemental energy to throw the pill furnace at the lightning dragon. He was attacked by the lightning dragon because he was the refiner of the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. Therefore, as the artifact used in the refinement of the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, the pill furnace was the biggest accomplice. It was probably also an important part of the tribulation. Seeing the pill furnace being thrown over, the lightning dragon did not hesitate at all. It directly opened its mouth and swallowed the pill furnace, then continued to charge at Yu Haoran. However, less than 10 meters away, the thunder dragon suddenly stopped and began to writhe in pain. As it writhed in pain, the lightning on the thunder dragon's body gradually dimmed, and its body began to turn illusory. It was as if a pill furnace had been swallowed into its body and was devouring the source of its power. When Lei Long's body became more and more illusory and revealed the pill furnace in his body, Yu Haoran discovered that things were as he had guessed. The pill furnace was indeed swallowing the lightning flash. Yu Haoran, once the pill furnace finishes devouring the lightning dragon, I'm afraid the pill furnace's pill flame will rise in rank again. Thaling couldn't help but sigh as he watched the pill furnace that was holding the thunder dragon in place and absorbing the lightning energy from its body. Moreover, affected by the advancement of the alchemy fire, the alchemy furnace will probably be restored to a complete top-grade king's domain. In half a year, with the help of countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures, his spirit body had recovered to the peak of the martial venerable realm. However, as the main body, Victor still showed no signs of recovery. This made Thaling feel very depressed. Yu Haoran, who didn't know Thaling's thoughts, couldn't help but feel ecstatic when he heard that the pill furnace's alchemy fire would rise in rank again and the pill furnace would be restored to a complete top-grade king's domain. Although he wouldn't refine the pill furnace into his natal magic artifact, his first doppelganger, who specialized in alchemy and poison pills, could do it. When the two pills above his head that were struggling to withstand the bombardment of the lightning dragon passed the lightning tribulation, he would give the pill furnace to his first doppelganger. Boom! Just after the pill furnace successfully swallowed the thunder dragon, one of the thunder dragons that swallowed the pills suddenly exploded, revealing a dragon-eye-sized pill in the midst of countless lightning bolts. Its color was crystal clear, and the inside of the pill was engraved with the same patterns as the meridians. Regardless of whether the second pill successfully survived the bombardment of the thunder dragon or not, at least this pill that successfully passed the lightning tribulation allowed him to be completely assured that it could be used as the final betrothal gift and be transferred to Emperor Qin so that he could obtain further attention and protection from Emperor Qin. Boom! Just 3 seconds after the first pill successfully passed the lightning tribulation, the second lightning dragon also self-destructed, revealing a pill that was exactly the same as the first one. Looking at the two pills floating above his head, Yu Haoran sat down cross-legged with a smile on his face, and then prepared to accept the reward of the heavenly Tao. It didn't take long before the smile on Yu Haoran's face became even wider. This was because the countless lightning bolts in the black clouds above his head condensed into a milky white energy that was almost 5 times the reward of the heavenly Tao after passing the 5 lives mysterious gate pill lightning tribulation. He lowered his head and closed his eyes, allowing the suction force in his body to forcefully devour the milky white energy gathered by the black clouds above his head. Then, with the help of the milky white energy, he continued to expand his foundation and improve his potential. However, to Yu Haoran's surprise, the suction force formed in his body this time was exactly the same as the 2 pills in the air. This caused his foundation and potential to reach the limit in just 3 minutes. In this regard, Yu Haoran did not panic in the slightest. Instead, he directly circulated the Great Mystery Heart Sutra cultivation method and the Star Dough art. Then, he used the milky white energy to start a breakthrough in his cultivation and physical body grade. As a special energy rewarded by the heavenly Tao, the milky white energy not only had the heaven-defying effect of being reborn, but it also had an unimaginable and shocking effect on the improvement of cultivation and physical body grade. After absorbing the milky white energy for less than 30 seconds, his cultivation at the peak of the 4th grade of martial arts Grandmaster successfully broke through to the beginning of the 5th grade of martial arts Grandmaster. Furthermore, his cultivation continued to increase. The second after his cultivation broke through, his physical body grade also broke through to the beginning of the 7th grade of martial arts Grandmaster and continued to increase. When the milky white energy above his head completely disappeared, his cultivation had already risen to the peak of the 5th grade of martial arts Grandmaster and his physical body grade had also reached the peak of the 7th grade of martial arts Grandmaster. If it were not for the fact that he had to spend even more milky white energy to strengthen his foundation and improve his potential after every small breakthrough in his cultivation and physical body grade, his cultivation and physical body grade would definitely have increased by 2 small realms. However, even if this was the case, Yuhaoran was already satisfied. After all, it had only been 10 days since he broke through to the martial arts Grandmaster realm. His cultivation and physical body grade had increased by 4 small realms at the same time. Furthermore, his foundation was incomparably firm and his potential had increased by several times. The results were far better than those monstrous disciples of the 7 top sections. In fact, he did not lose to the core disciples of the inherited families. With a wave of his sleeve, he put away the 2 ice jade heart elixirs that were floating in the air. Then, he carefully observed them. Originally, he thought that the ice jade heart elixirs that were similar to the Hand of Punishment's ice jade heart elixirs might have some changes in their grade. However, the results of his inspection disappointed him. They were still 4th rank, 1st grade. As he put away the ice jade heart elixirs, he also put away the pill furnace. Yuhaoran directly stood up and looked at Xiang Wenxuan with a smile. Chapter 699. Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Source Pavilion. To be able to refine the rank 4 1st grade Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir as a peak alchemy grandmaster was proof that Yuhaoran's understanding of alchemy had already reached the edge of the alchemy grandmaster realm. Next, he only needed to continue accumulating, and within 3 to 5 years, he would definitely be able to break through to the alchemy grandmaster realm. Brother Xiang, the alchemy grandmaster realm is Yuhaoran's journey and also your starting point. Yuhaoran also knew the reason for Xiang Wenxuan's congratulations and encouraged him with a smile. Perhaps the alchemy grandmaster realm was only the starting point of alchemy. Yuhaoran's encouragement was too high and Xiang Wenxuan did not know how to reply. Brother Xiang, although Gu Zi has sworn on the heavenly way that all the martial sages in the Valley of the Medicine Masters will not attack you, with Gu Zi's shrewdness, he may be able to find a loophole in the oath. Any promise and encouragement needed time to verify. Faced with Xiang Wenxuan's lack of confidence, Yuhaoran did not say anything more. Instead, he stopped smiling and instructed him with a serious expression. Therefore, while Gao Xingjie is using the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir to cross the quasi-martial Honorable Realm Heart Tribulation, Gu Zi needs to protect you. Immediately leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters and then leave the Emperor Qin Kingdom. In that case, even if Gu Zi wants to deal with you, it will not be that easy. Actually, even without Yuhaoran's reminder, Xiang Wenxuan had already planned to leave. After all, he knew Gu Zi and the Great Elder's character better than Yuhaoran. Therefore, Xiang Wenxuan nodded in agreement and directly cupped his fists to bid farewell. Brother Yu, the Valley of the Medicine Masters is not a good place. Since the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir and the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir have been successfully refined, you should consider leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters as soon as possible. I will. Nodding, Yuhaoran watched Xiang Wenxuan leave the Earth Origin Pavilion before using his divine sense to remind Meng Yujie to leave the Earth Origin Pavilion as soon as possible. After Xiang Wenxuan and Meng Yujie left the Earth Origin Pavilion, Yuhaoran turned around, intending to enter his loft and enter seclusion for a short period of time to organize and comprehend his gains from the past few days. However, at this moment, a reminder from the Spirit Vein's soul came from underground. Little friend, Gu Zi has gathered 3 experts at the peak of the 9th grade Martial Saint realm. They are here to capture you. After hearing the reminder of the spiritual vein divine soul, Yuhaoran was stunned for a moment, and then his heart was burning with anger. When he was refining the 5 Lives Profound Gate pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, he did not directly expel the alchemists who were planted by Gu Zi. This was already giving him a lot of face, and could be considered to have expressed his goodwill. However, he did not expect Gu Zi to not know what was good for him, and still refused to give up on the idea of extracting his divine soul. This made him furious, and a crazy idea of revenge emerged in his heart. Spiritual vein divine soul, send me to the 10,000 mu medicinal field. Yu Haoran suppressed his anger and ordered while gritting his teeth. All right. The spiritual vein divine soul did not need to think too much about what he wanted to do in the 10,000 mu medicinal field. It also knew what Yu Haoran was thinking. Although the angry Yu Haoran might directly destroy the 10,000 mu medicinal field that had been cultivated for tens of thousands of years, if he did not agree, not only would he not refine the antidote for him, he might even trigger the poison of the life-devouring pill in advance. Therefore, the blue dragon formed by the spiritual vein divine soul waved its dragon claw and instantly sent him to the 10,000 mu medicinal field. Revenge was revenge. Yu Haoran was not a crazy person, nor was he someone who did not care about anything in the heat of the moment. Thaling, immediately use your divine sense to mark the exact location of all the level 4 and above medicinal herbs in the medicinal field. Yu Haoran took a deep breath and tried his best to calm the anger in his heart as he ordered. All right. With the divine sense of a peak martial honorable, Thaling did not spend too much time and directly marked out thousands of level 4 and above medicinal herbs. Then, according to the exact location marked out by Thaling, he began to madly harvest the level 4 and above medicinal herbs. Of course, his first target was the level 3 medicinal herbs that were protected by the defensive array. Gu Zi, who had brought 3 peak 9th grade martial saints to sneak into the Earth Origin Pavilion with the intention of secretly capturing Yu Haoran, could not help but change his expression when he discovered that the Earth Origin Pavilion was already empty. This was because he was worried that Yu Haoran, who had finished refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir, had secretly left the Earth Origin Pavilion and the Medicine King Valley. However, considering that the lightning tribulation of the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir had not disappeared for long, with Yu Haoran's strength, he was afraid that he would not be able to leave the Medicine King Valley. He hurriedly contacted the spiritual vein divine soul and asked it to track Yu Haoran, who had escaped from the Earth Origin Pavilion. Little friend, Gu Zi asked me to track your location. What do you think I should do? After receiving Gu Zi's request, the spiritual vein divine soul immediately asked for Yu Haoran's opinion. Tell him directly. Without any hesitation, Yu Haoran decided to reveal his location. His goal was to negotiate with Gu Zi for the last time. More accurately, he wanted to use the trump card in his hand to continue asking for benefits from Gu Zi. Alright. After receiving Yu Haoran's instructions, the spiritual vein divine soul directly told Gu Zi that Yu Haoran was madly harvesting level 4 and above medicinal herbs in the medicinal field. Damn it! After hearing Yu Haoran's location and actions from the spiritual vein divine soul, Gu Zi could not help but curse. Then, he used all his strength and directly led the 3 9th grade martial saints to the medicinal field. Yu Haoran, stop! Gu Zi hurriedly rushed to the sky above the medicinal field. When he saw Yu Haoran breaking the defensive formation and harvesting the level 3 5th grade fig that had been cultivated for close to 7,000 years, Gu Zi could not help but roar in anger. What's the matter? After keeping the fig, Yu Haoran patted the soil off his hands. He raised his head and looked at Gu Zi, who was floating in midair, and asked coldly, Yu Haoran, although I promised you that you can enter the medicinal field and harvest 10 stalks of medicinal herbs, you must do so under my supervision. What you are doing is going against the agreement. Faced with Yu Haoran's cold questioning, Gu Zi immediately reprimanded him. Gu Zi, you have already planned to deal with me. Why should I still abide by the original agreement? The most annoying thing was to be questioned by others. Yu Haoran, who was also in the air, directly exposed Gu Zi's sinister intentions. Yu Haoran, what do you mean? After hearing Yu Haoran's question, Guzi could not help but feel his heart tighten. He quickly pretended to be puzzled and asked, Guzi, have you been tracking down Zhao Qing's whereabouts? Looking at Guzi, who had already shed all pretense of cordiality, Yu Haoran could not help but chuckle. Then, he said a piece of news that made Guzi's expression suddenly change. Yu Haoran, I don't know what you are talking about. Forcibly suppressing the panic in his heart, Guzi still stubbornly pretended to be ignorant and asked. 12 level 4 first-grade spirit stones can be used to contact the giant of the demonic Tao. I don't know if Guzi has remembered anything. Chapter 700. Medicine King Valley. 12 4th-grade spirit stones, a communication artifact that could be used to contact the big shots of the Devil Tao. The information that Yu Haoran had just revealed caused Guzi to be unable to remain calm. He first turned his head and instructed his 3 subordinates, who were at the peak of the 9th-grade martial saint realm, all of you, go back first. After the 3 subordinates left, Guzi took the initiative to land on the empty ground where the 3rd-grade 5th-grade fig had just been plucked by Yu Haoran. Then, he smiled apologetically and raised his head to invite him. Master Yu, can we talk in detail? Seeing the sudden change in Guzi's attitude, Yu Haoran couldn't help but laugh coldly. Then, he slowly landed in front of Guzi. Master Yu, where is Zhao Qing now? After Yu Haoran landed, Guzi hurriedly asked. Valley Head, don't worry. Elder Zhao is fine. I have only temporarily arranged for him to be hidden in a safe place. Yu Haoran seemed to have good intentions, but he was actually threatening him. Ha ha! Faced with Yu Haoran's threat, Guzi forced a smile and said, Master, you must be joking. You have never left the Medicine King Valley, and the entire Medicine King Valley is under my control. Where can you hide Zhao Qing? There is no need for Valley Master to worry about this. I have arranged for Elder Zhao to avoid being monitored by Valley Master. Ignoring Guzi's polite words, Yu Haoran's expression was indifferent as he mocked. Master Yu, Elder Zhao is very important to my Valley of the Medicine Masters. I sincerely hope that Master you can return Elder Zhao. Seeing that Yu Haoran's tone didn't seem to be lying, Guzi forced himself to calm down and find an excuse to ask for Zhao Qing. At the same time, it was also a test to see if Zhao Qing was still alive. Sigh. Faced with Guzi's request, Yu Haoran suddenly sighed and said helplessly, Valley Head, of course I know how important Elder Zhao is to the Medicine King Valley. I have also tried to persuade him to return to the Medicine King Valley. But I don't know what you did to him, Valley Lord, that he would rather choose to live in seclusion or join our 100 Qi Gate than return to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Grandmaster Yu, just tell me, what do you need my grains for you to return them to Zhao Qing? Seeing Yu Haoran's lies, Guzi knew that he would not hand over Zhao Qing so easily. No matter what, he had to get Zhao Qing back, even if it was just a corpse. This was because the secret that he had once forced Zhao Qing to use a demonic Tao artifact to contact a demonic Tao powerhouse was too important. The implications behind it were impossible to predict. If this were to be exposed, and the evidence was conclusive, he would immediately become the target of everyone's pursuit, and could even implicate the entire Valley of the Medicine Masters. Valley Master, I've already said it. It's not that I, Yu Haoran, am unwilling to hand over Elder Zhao. It's that Elder Zhao is unwilling to return. What do you want me to do? Yu Haoran shrugged helplessly. Grandmaster Yu, let's not beat around the bush. Only the heavens, the earth, you and I know how important the secret Zhao Qing holds is. Seeing that Yu Haoran was still trying to fool him and refused to hand over Zhao Qing, Guzi decided to be straightforward. So, what do you need me to do for you to hand over Zhao Qing? Valley Master, if you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Seeing that the provocation was about to reach its limit, Yuhaoran put away his casual attitude and said with a cold smile, "The secret Zhao Qing holds can be said to be my protective talisman in the short term. No matter what price you pay, I will never hand him over. Grandmaster Yu, do you really intend to make an enemy out of me, Gu Zi, and the entire Valley of the Medicine Masters?" He would never hand over Zhao Qing. Yuhaoran's attitude caused Gu Zi's face to darken. He could not help but threaten him. "Valley Master, don't use that tone with me." In the face of Gu Zi's threat, Yuhaoran mocked him with disdain. "Because you have neither the right nor the confidence to threaten me now." Then, he said in a serious tone, "However, if I am satisfied with Valley Master's performance, I can guarantee that Zhao Qing will never leave this hidden place, nor will he reveal any secrets related to Valley Master." "Yuhaoran, I do not like to be blackmailed," Gu Zi rejected flatly. "If that is the case, then there is nothing more to say between us." Yuhaoran spread his hands and looked at a level 3, level 2 blood monkey flower not far away. His eyes flashed with joy. With the blood monkey flower as the main ingredient and 35 level 7 to level 5 supplementary spiritual herbs, he could refine a level 4, level 1 7 orifices exquisite pill. The 7 orifices exquisite pill could greatly increase the intelligence and potential of a venerable realm exotic beast. As for the target of the gift, he had already thought of who it would be. Seeing Yuhaoran look at the blood monkey flower, Gu Zi's eyes flashed with thought. Since he was unwilling to hand over Zhao Qing, then he would use his strength as a martial sage to capture him. Then, through the various torture methods of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, he would be able to force out Zhao Qing's whereabout. There was also a chance that he would obtain the method to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill. Thinking of this, Gu Zi blamed himself for panicking just now. As a result, Yuhaoran was pressuring him step by step until he could only lower his head. Seeing Yuhaoran walking towards the blood monkey flower, Gu Zi's contemplative look was replaced by a murderous glint. Then, he mobilized all of his origin energy and soul power, then combined it with the power of the laws to unleash the most powerful secret technique he had ever mastered. Pill Path Reversal. Following Gu Zi's shout, countless pills of various grades suddenly appeared around Yuhaoran. By the time Yuhaoran sensed it and was about to counterattack, the countless pills had turned into strange beasts that roared and surrounded him. Seeing the countless strange beasts that the pills had turned into surround him, the corners of Yuhaoran's mouth curled up slightly, giving Gu Zi a feeling of contempt. "Disperse!" Facing the countless strange beasts that had surrounded him, Yuhaoran first stomped the ground, then waved his sleeves and shouted softly. There was no fluctuation of origin energy, soul power, or the power of the laws. The countless strange beasts that were roaring like thunder instantly disappeared without a trace at Yuhaoran's shout. This caused Gu Zi, who was full of anticipation, to involuntarily take a few steps back in fear. "Gu Zi, since you were the first to shed all pretense of cordiality, then don't blame me for revealing the secret that Zhao Qing revealed to the 7 top sects and the guardian families." Looking at Gu Zi with an ashen face, Yuhaoran also shed all pretense of cordiality and threatened him. "Grandmaster Yu, please don't, I beg you, please don't reveal this secret." The 7 top sects knew that he still had hope of dealing with them. If the guardian families found out, not only would he die without a doubt, but the Valley of the Medicine Masters would also suffer an unbearable blow. Chapter 701. Valley of the Medicine Masters. You obviously wanted to use Yuhaoran's character just now. Why should I continue to help you hide the secret of colluding with the demon Dao? Faced with Gu Zi's pleading, Yuhaoran threatened him with an unrelenting attitude. "Master Yu, just say it. Whatever you want, as long as it's what Gu Zi has, as long as it's what the Valley of the Medicine Masters has, you can take it and use it as you wish." Gu Zi knew that his risky attack just now had completely angered Yu Haoran. Moreover, with just a wave of his sleeve, he had dispersed his most powerful secret technique. Yu Haoran's methods and strength just now made him feel shocked and incomparably fearful. Therefore, he could only use his biggest trump card, which was to give up his and the Valley of the Medicine Master's worth in exchange for Yu Haoran's release. Really? Gu Zi's desperate declaration was completely beyond Yu Haoran's expectations. He suppressed the joy in his heart and said, "It's true." Nodding his head heavily, Gu Zi confirmed. "What if I want to pick all the spiritual herbs of the 4th level and above in the 10,000 mu of medicine fields?" Yu Haoran asked in disbelief. "Whatever." With a wave of his hand, Gu Zi gritted his teeth and agreed. "What if I take away the Emperor-level pill furnace of the Valley of the Medicine Masters?" Yu Haoran continued to ask. "Whatever." Gu Zi nodded his head painfully and gritted his teeth in agreement. "What if I directly empty the treasury of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and the Alchemy Mantra Pavilion?" Yu Haoran asked with a trembling heart. In the face of Yu Haoran's third question, Gu Zi directly closed his eyes and resisted the sadness in his heart and agreed. "Whatever." "You're crazy," Yu Haoran asked in shock. Not to mention the inheritance of the Alchemy Master and the upper 3rd level spiritual vein that would be lost in the future, the Emperor-level pill furnace was the only means by which the Valley of the Medicine Masters could deal with the top experts of the 7 top sects and the 3 great empires. This was because only by using a top-grade Emperor Realm pill furnace could he and the Great Elder refine pills that were beneficial to martial honorables and martial honorables. After losing the supreme quality pill cauldron of the Emperor Realm, they also lost the influence of the elite warriors on the Tian Xian land. As for the 10,000 mu of herb fields, the pill mantra pavilion, and the treasure trove, they were all used by the Medicine King Valley to attract talented pill refiners to join them, as well as to nurture the growth of pill refiners. Without these treasures, even with the legacy of the Alchemy Venerate and the superior Level 3 Spirit Vein, the Valley of the Medicine Masters would lose its status as a holy land of alchemy. If you don't even have your life, then what's the point of keeping these worldly possessions? Gu Zi opened his eyes and sneered. "Gu Zi, you are the most selfish, despicable and shameless villain that I, Yu Haoran, have ever seen in my life." Gu Zi's explanation shocked Yu Haoran, and at the same time, he was very disappointed in Gu Zi's human nature. After all, everything that you have now was not earned by you with your own hands. It was the foundation that hundreds of Valley Masters had built bit by bit. Now, he was using the tens of thousands of years of foundation that his ancestors had accumulated in exchange for his own safety. Yu Haoran felt that his evaluation of Gu Zi was too mild. But all of this had nothing to do with him, so Yu Haoran directly pointed his hand and demanded, "Give it to me." "What?" Gu Zi asked in confusion. "The Valley Master's token," Yu Haoran said coldly. "You haven't given me your promise." With a thought, a dark purple token with a tree carved on the front and a pill cauldron on the back appeared in Gu Zi's hand. Gu Zi asked with a cold smile as he held the purple token between 2 fingers and waved it in front of Yu Haoran. "I, Yu Haoran, swear by the rules of the Heavenly Tao that I will not hand Zhao Qing over to anyone, nor will I reveal any secrets related to Gu Zi. If I break my oath, my soul will fall into hell forever." Raising his left hand, Yu Haoran swore by the rules of the Heavenly Tao, then looked coldly at Gu Zi. In fact, even if he did not swear by the rules of the Heavenly Tao, he would never reveal the secret of Gu Zi's relationship with the diabolical way. Firstly, most of the 7 top sects and the hidden families had dealings with the diabolical way. If he was exposed, it would easily arouse the fear of those top forces, and in the end, they might secretly get rid of a reckless person like him. Secondly, he himself had mastered several types of diabolical way magic, especially the secret devouring technique, which was a powerful weapon to quickly raise his cultivation level. In the future, If people found out that the person who reported him was also practicing diabolical way magic, Guzi was afraid that he would be despised even more. Here, seeing Yu Haoran swear by the rules of the heavenly Tao, Guzi directly threw the token between his fingers to Yu Haoran, then turned and left the medicine field. Master Yu, I am busy and will not personally send you out of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. After watching Guzi leave the medicine field, Yu Haoran looked at the purple token in his hand, and a trace of worry appeared on his face. But this worry did not bother him for too long. Finally, holding the purple token tightly, he appeared beside the blood monkey flower in a flash. Placing the purple token on the defensive array of the blood monkey flower, the array automatically disappeared, and Yu Haoran bent down to pick the third level, second-grade blood monkey flower. In the following 5 hours, he picked a total of 36 third-level, first-grade, to 7th-grade spirit herbs, as well as more than 500 4th-level, first-grade, to 9th-grade spirit herbs. The total was about 1/3 of the 3rd level and 4th level spirit herbs in the medicine field. He did not pick all of them because Yu Haoran did not want to destroy the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters so early, nor did he want to incur the hatred of the thousands of alchemists in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. After leaving the medicine field, he went straight to the Pill Scripture Pavilion in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. He telepathically summoned the first doppelganger in Victor, and the two of them began to look through all the collections in the Pill Scripture Pavilion. After a day and night of searching, Yu Haoran finally took away 26 alchemy grandmasters, 11 grandmasters' personal notes, 79 top-level pill recipes, and 3 secret alchemy manuals. After leaving the Pill Scripture Pavilion, he went to the treasury of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was famous for its alchemy skills, and its reputation did not lose out to the 7 top sections. Although the treasury of the Valley of the Medicine Masters also had 5 floors, the overall size and grandeur of the building were far superior to those of the Enforcer Peak and the 100 Feet Peak. After using the purple token to enter the treasury, he did not pay much attention to the spirit stones, pills, and spirit herbs on the first 3 floors. He went all the way to the 4th floor, where mantras and martial arts techniques were stored. He chose a set of palm techniques at the early stage of the Earth class, a set of foot techniques at the advanced stage of the Earth class, and a set of staff techniques at the advanced stage of the Earth class before leaving the 4th floor. Chapter 702 Valley of the Medicine Masters, Treasure House. Yu Haoran, haven't you been preparing the betrothal gifts for your engagement ceremony with Princess Ling Fei? Thaling, who was also shocked by the energy fluctuations emitted by the 38 different types of treasures placed on the 5th floor of the treasure house, couldn't help but laugh and tease Yu Haoran after scanning all the treasures in the treasure house. Here are 3 treasures that are very suitable as the finale betrothal gifts, treasures that can satisfy your fiancé. Thaling, don't keep me in suspense. Which 3 treasures are suitable as the betrothal gifts? Ignoring Thaling's teasing, Yu Haoran asked directly. The 5th treasure placed on the stone platform on the west side of the treasure house is suitable as the finale betrothal gift that is not inferior to the 5 lives mysterious gate pill, and will also please your fiancé. Thaling was a little unwilling to be ignored and continued to tease. Ignoring Thaling's teasing, and then following his reminder, Yu Haoran quickly looked at a hairpin placed on the stone platform on the west side of the treasure house. Walking quickly to the stone platform where the hairpin was placed, Yu Haoran looked down and carefully observed the hairpin, and found that the hairpin in front of him was a turquoise color, completely made of a piece of green jade. But from the energy fluctuations emitted from the jade hairpin, it should be a high-grade magic tool. Moreover, there was a natural lotus flower on the hairpin, giving people the feeling that the lotus seed was as clear as water, naturally carved and beautiful. Yu Haoran, this hairpin was made by a master at the peak of tools method, using deep-sea turquoise jade. The hairpin contains 36 types of offensive formations, 72 types of defensive formations, and its grade has reached the complete top grade of the Saint Realm. Seeing that Yuhauran was going to use his spiritual sense to check the jade hairpin, Thaling hurriedly stopped him and explained. Moreover, among the 99 types of formations, there are 7 types of offensive formations that specialize in countering spiritual sense spying, and 13 types of formations that prevent spiritual sense spying. After hearing Thaling's timely reminder and explanation, Yuhauran couldn't help but secretly rejoice, and at the same time, quickly closed his eyes and began to adjust his state of mind. Just now, he rashly used his spiritual sense to check the unknown jade hairpin because too many things had happened in the past few days, causing his mind to be in a trance, and unconsciously lowering his own vigilance. Otherwise, with his cautious character in his previous life, he would never have made such a fatal low-level mistake. After readjusting his state of mind, Yuhauran took out a wooden box specially used to store elixirs from his storage ring and placed the jade hairpin into the wooden box. After putting away the wooden box, Yuhauran continued to ask, "Thaling, what is the second treasure? The third treasure on the east side of the treasure house is also a treasure that is not inferior to the jade hairpin, and can please your fiancé." Thaling continued to tease with a smile. Yuhauran couldn't help but roll his eyes in response. Then he planned to bypass the dozen stone platforms in the middle to see what the third treasure on the east side of the treasure house was. However, when he passed by a jade fan placed on a stone platform, he suddenly stopped. "Yuhauran, it's just a fan-shaped celestial device of the upper level of the king's domain. It's not worthy of your attention." Seeing Yuhauran's attention on the jade fan placed on the stone platform, Thaling, who had already checked it with his spiritual sense, asked with disdain and confusion, "Thaling, are you sure this jade fan is only a celestial device of the upper level of the king's domain?" Yuhauran reached out to pick up the jade fan and asked with a faint smile. Of course. Yuhauran's strange behavior puzzled Thaling. He couldn't help but check it again with his spiritual sense. When he found that the jade fan was the same as the one he had checked at the beginning, he answered with certainty. "Then, take a look again," Yuhauran asked with a smile as he waved his left hand and opened the jade fan directly. A cold aura immediately filled the entire 5th floor of the treasure house. A celestial device of the upper level of the Emperor domain? How is this possible? Thaling also felt the cold aura emitted by the jade fan. He couldn't help but check it with his spiritual sense for the 3rd time, but the result made him cry out in surprise. "Thaling, take a look again." As if to take revenge for Thaling's teasing just now, Yuhauran closed the fan and opened it again. Then, he motioned for Thaling to continue checking with his spiritual sense. "I'm going to vomit blood. A celestial device of the Emperor domain? What's going on?" After hearing Yuhauran's reminder, Thaling checked the fan with his spiritual sense for the 4th time. However, what made him even more depressed was that the 2nd time he opened the jade fan, it turned out to be a celestial device of the Emperor domain. Yuhauran couldn't help but sigh as he closed the fan again. Celestial device of the Emperor domain, celestial device of the Emperor domain, and celestial device of the 1,000-bone fan. Yuhauran put the jade fan into the victor. "I want to take a closer look." After hearing Yuhauran's sigh, Thaling immediately thought of an incomparably cruel refining method and immediately ordered. Yuhauran didn't refuse. He directly put the jade fan into the victor, then strode toward the 2nd treasure that Thaling had pointed out as a suitable betrothal gift. The frame was made of celestial dark iron, and the surface of the umbrella was made of the skin of a peak 9th level 4th level Sage Realm white jade serpent. Looking at the umbrella-shaped device on the stone platform, he didn't need to use his spiritual sense to know how precious it was. Moreover, the white jade serpent's skin was pure white. The surface of the umbrella made of its skin looked like a fairy in the rain. It was indeed suitable for the lively and adorable Ling Fei. Yuhaoran waved his hand and took the umbrella-shaped device from the stone platform. Then, he interrupted Thaling's study of the thousand-bone fan and asked him to point out the third treasure that was suitable as a betrothal gift. The mask on the fourth platform in the northwest corner. Thaling's expression was gloomy. He casually pointed out the location of the third treasure, then continued to immerse himself in studying the thousand-bone fan. He strode to the fourth platform in the northwest corner and took a closer look at the mask on the platform. Then, his expression changed and he involuntarily muttered to himself, "Phantom illusion." 300 years ago, it was the most important treasure of the Ji Huan sect. It has the ability to change and transform. It is said to be the phantom mask that no one can see through. Didn't they say that the phantom mask was destroyed when the Ji Huan sect was destroyed? After muttering to himself, Yuhaoran took a deep breath and suppressed his shock. He reached out to pick up the phantom mask and put it on his face. "Thaling, who am I?" Yuhaoran mentally asked Thaling, whose expression was so gloomy that it looked like water could drip out of it. "Nonsense. Of course you are Yuhaoran," Thaling said impatiently without even raising his head. "Thaling, I want you to use your divine sense and your own senses to see if you can find any flaws in the mask." Thaling's impatient response made Yuhaoran feel a little regretful. He regretted that he had chosen the thousand-bone fan just now. He regretted that he had messed up the artifact spirit's mind. Therefore, he could only ask patiently, "Yuhaoran, since you have already recognized the origin of this mask, you must also know the unique effects of this mask." After hearing Yuhaoran's request, Thaling finally raised his head and looked at Yuhaoran, who had put on the phantom mask and become a completely different person. He casually explained, "Therefore, you don't need to doubt the effects of this mask. It does indeed have the ability to change forms that even peak martial honorables cannot distinguish." "Alright, Thaling, you don't need to continue studying the thousand-bone fan." Chapter 703. In the Treasury of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. 500 years ago, a prodigy appeared in the weapon refining sect, one of the top 7 sections. This prodigy's talent in the art of weapon refining could be said to be a rare prodigy in the weapon refining sect. He was highly regarded by the master of the weapon refining sect and the elders. However, this prodigy's personality was not only strange, but he also liked to study unorthodox methods of weapon refining. The thousand-bone fan was a special magic tool that this person had refined with the body of a peak 9th-grade martial royal realm expert when his cultivation was only at the martial king realm and his tool's method cultivation had just broken through to the tool's method grandmaster. It was a special magic tool that could confuse the opponent through grade changes. Purely in terms of refining techniques, even a tool's method great grandmaster would not be able to refine such an unfathomable artifact. However, using a cultivator's body to refine a weapon was already a taboo in the Tianxian continent. Furthermore, the peak 9th-grade martial emperor was still alive when he was refining the weapon. This was not only a taboo in the Tianxian continent, but also caused the fear and anger of countless cultivators. Even if that genius was highly regarded by the upper echelons of the crafting school, in the face of the questioning of the 6 top sects and the questioning of countless martial practitioners, the upper echelons of the crafting school could only hand that genius over in order to protect themselves, allowing the 6 top sects to punish him. In the end, the prodigy died a horrible death. It was said that the pain he suffered was no less than that of the peak 9th-grade martial emperor that he had killed with his weapon refining technique. After hearing Yuhaoran's detailed explanation, Thaling's originally gloomy expression gradually returned to normal. He could not help but sigh. The heavens are jealous of prodigies. It's a pity that a prodigy who could break through to the peak of the weapon refining grandmaster level was lost. "Thaling, the mask of illusion is very suitable for me. It is also a life-saving technique that I will use in the future. Seeing that Thaling's attention had finally shifted from the 1,000-bone fan, Yuhauran quickly asked, "So, help me choose a treasure that is suitable as a betrothal gift." In the third pill bottle on the east side of the Mask of Illusion, there is a yin-yang longevity pill that can increase one's lifespan by 1,000 years. It can also be used as a betrothal gift. After thinking for a while, Thaling took out a treasure from the 5th floor of the treasury that could also be used as a betrothal gift. His gaze landed on the pill bottle placed on the stone platform on the east side. He used his elemental energy to absorb the pill bottle into his palm before pouring the contents out of the pill bottle. The quality is not bad, it can increase one's lifespan by 1,000 years. Yuhauran inspected the pill in his hand, which was emitting a unique fragrance. After praising it with satisfaction, he put it into his storage ring. He then retreated to the entrance of the 5th floor and carefully observed the remaining 34 treasures. In the end, he chose 4 high-grade Emperor Realm swords, 3 low-grade Emperor Realm defensive artifacts, and a jade slip containing either a mental cultivation method or a martial technique inheritance. Looking at the remaining 20-plus treasures in the treasury, Yuhauran finally suppressed the greed in his heart. He turned around and left the 5th floor of the treasury, directly leaving the treasury. Based on his memories of living in the Valley of the Medicine Masters in his previous life, Yuhauran went straight to the last thing he wanted to do in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. That was to see the first treasure of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, the low-grade Emperor Realm Pill Cauldron. Possessing the purple token that symbolized the Valley Master was equivalent to controlling the protective formation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Therefore, without being affected by the protective formation, he flew directly to a mountain about 30 miles away from the Earth Source Pavilion. It wasn't very tall, but it emitted a high temperature. Floating in the air, he looked at the low-grade Emperor Realm Pill Cauldron towering at the top of the mountain. Although it wasn't the first time he had seen a low-grade Emperor Realm Pill Cauldron, every time he saw it with his own eyes, he would be shocked by the ancient, grand, and profound aura that the cauldron unconsciously emitted. "Brother Hao, what are you doing?" Seeing the low-grade Emperor Realm Pill Cauldron with his own eyes was only to relive the shock that the cauldron had given him in his previous life. He had no intention of spying on the cauldron. Therefore, after experiencing the shock that the cauldron had given him, Yuhauran turned to leave the mountain and secretly meet someone. But at this moment, without his consent, the first clone left Victor and appeared in the air. "Brother Yu, this cauldron is called Raging Fire Rebirth. It is also Master's natal weapon." The first clone reached out to Yuhauran, who was about to ask questions, and pointed to the cauldron towering at the top of the mountain. "What?" After hearing the first clone's introduction, Yuhauran couldn't help but ask in surprise. But thinking about it carefully, the alchemy master was still a master who had successfully broken through to become a pill emperor. Then, as his natal weapon, it was normal for it to be a low-grade Emperor Realm Pill Cauldron. "Brother Yu, I would like to discuss something with you." The first clone had wanted to introduce the cauldron in detail, but after sensing Yuhauran's shock and calmness, the first clone knew that he had guessed the relationship between the cauldron and the alchemy master. Therefore, he didn't waste any more time explaining. Instead, he made a request with a complicated expression. "Brother Hao, please speak." Yuhauran, who had barely managed to calm himself down, didn't notice the first clone's abnormality, and asked directly, "Brother Yu, I'm afraid we'll have to part for a while." The first clone looked at Yuhauran, a trace of reluctance in his eyes. Then he looked at the cauldron at the top of the mountain and explained, "Because I plan to enter the cauldron for a while to cultivate." Yuhauran's expression changed when he heard that the first clone was going to enter the cauldron to cultivate. Then, he shouted angrily, "Brother Hao, do you know what grade this cauldron is?" "It's a lower Emperor Realm weapon," the first clone said calmly. Since you know that it's a lower Emperor realm weapon, why do you still dare to enter the cauldron to cultivate? Aren't you digging your own grave? Yuharan couldn't control his anger and scolded. Brother Yu, don't be angry. Let me explain. In the face of Yuharan's scolding, the first clone tried to persuade him gently. There are 3 reasons why I plan to enter the cauldron to cultivate. Firstly, when I received my master's legacy, he left behind a special aura. With this special aura, I was able to awaken the artifact spirit of the Emperor Artifact Cauldron, allowing me to safely enter it. Are you sure? Yuharan was angry, not because of the first clone's decision, but because he didn't know the severity of the situation. After all, a complete Emperor Realm weapon was different from an ordinary weapon. The Emperor Realm weapon contained Emperor Realm power that even martial honorables couldn't get close to, let alone his first clone who was weaker than him. Chapter 704. There's more tonight. In the Valley of the Medicine Masters. In fact, Yuharan knew that the 3 of them would be separated sooner or later when he had used the I-Chi turning 3 Pure Ones technique to create 2 clones with independent consciousnesses. Of course, the temporary separation today was for the sake of being stronger when they reunited in the future. He was already mentally prepared for this and could accept it calmly. I'm sure. The first clone nodded in confirmation in response to Yuharan's questioning. Then, he continued to explain the second reason for entering the cauldron. Secondly, Master was seriously injured when he was ambushed and had no choice but to decompose himself. He left behind his Pill Dao insights after breaking through to the Emperor realm in the cauldron, so I have to enter the cauldron to receive the complete inheritance. Nodding, Yuharan looked into the eyes of the first clone and continued to listen to his third reason. Lastly, I want to use the opportunity to be alone with the cauldron's weapon spirit to gain its approval and then refine the Emperor Realm inferior grade cauldron into my own life pill weapon. In fact, there was another way for the first clone to refine the Emperor Realm inferior grade cauldron, and that was to directly devour the weapon spirit of the Emperor Realm inferior grade cauldron. However, this method was more risky and could be said to have a 90% chance of dying. He didn't want his original body to worry about him, so he didn't reveal it. I understand. After hearing the 3 explanations from the first clone, especially the last one about his ambition to refine the Emperor Realm inferior grade cauldron into his life pill weapon, Yuharan nodded. Then, he reached out and patted the first clone's shoulder, smiled and reminded him. Be careful. I will. The first clone nodded solemnly and flew towards the Emperor Realm inferior grade cauldron at the peak. When the Emperor Realm inferior grade cauldron sensed the invasion of the first clone, it instinctively emitted the Emperor aura unique to Emperor Realm weapons. However, when it sensed a strange aura from the first clone, the Emperor aura's aura instantly softened and wrapped around the first clone and brought him into the cauldron. After confirming that his first clone was safe, Yuharan turned around and left the mountain peak. Then, he asked the spirit vein to send him back to the Earth Origin Pavilion. Standing in the courtyard of the Earth Origin Pavilion, Yuharan raised his head to look at the sky and asked, Spiritual veins, divine soul, and the spiritual herbs needed to refine the detoxification pill have been gathered? I've already collected more than 500 type. Medicine King Valley doesn't have the remaining dozens of elixirs in stock. I've already arranged for the elders in the valley to collect them. The spirit vein spirit quickly replied. Let me see. Yuharan gestured towards the ground. Then, an ancient storage ring appeared in his hand. After his mind entered the space of the storage ring, the first thing that attracted his attention was not the piles of elixirs placed in the space, but the huge space of more than 100,000 square meters, which made him greedy to possess it. Yuharan said with a frown after his mind left the storage space. Spiritual veins, divine soul, among the dozens of elixirs that we lack, A few of them are the most important supplementary herbs for refining the detoxification pill. Moreover, I have something very important to do next. I have to leave the Medicine King Valley immediately. What do you think I should do? Young friend, you must not leave the Medicine King Valley. Hearing that Yuhauran was planning to leave the Medicine King Valley, the spirit vein spirit immediately became anxious. The life-devouring pill's poison was like a sharp sword hanging over its head. It could slash down at any time, and its life could vanish at any time. Therefore, it tried to persuade Yuhauran not to leave in a hurry, while it tried to think of a solution. Forget it. I just happen to lack dozens of elixirs. I'll make up for it for you for the time being. Seeing the silent spirit vein spirit, Yuhauran immediately knew that it must be thinking of a solution. He considered that if it came up with a solution, then he would be too embarrassed to keep the storage ring in his hand. Therefore, he pretended to be very generous and said, "Really, thank you so much. Even the tens of thousands of acres of herb fields that the Medicine King Valley had painstakingly cultivated for tens of thousands of years did not have them. This meant that the dozens of elixirs that were missing were very precious and rare. It was simply unrealistic to want to find these dozens of elixirs in a short period of time. The spirit vein spirit had almost exhausted all the methods it could think of, but still could not solve this problem. Suddenly hearing that Yuhauran wanted to help, how could it not be grateful? Therefore, when it saw Yuhauran put away its most beloved storage ring, it did not say much. Spirit vein spirit, you also know the life-devouring pill's position in the Tianxian continent's 100 poison ranking. As the detoxification pill that can neutralize the life-devouring pill's poison, I don't need to say more about its importance. Seeing that the spirit vein spirit did not chase after the storage ring that he had put away, Yuhauran secretly sighed in relief, and then reminded it with a serious expression. Therefore, I hope that in the following process of refining the detoxification pill, you can withdraw all of your divine sense, and then quietly stay at the source of the spirit vein. You cannot spy on the refining method of the detoxification pill. Refining the detoxification pill required a total of 9 elixirs. In addition to the 8 elixirs needed to control the spirit vein spirit, there were only 17 elixirs in total. If the spirit vein spirit found out that the number of detoxification pills and the number of elixirs needed was so different, it would definitely feel uncomfortable. In the future, it would definitely affect his plan to subdue it and move it to Qingyun Peak. Okay. Yuhauran's request was not excessive, and the spirit vein spirit nodded in agreement. Then, the divine sense that had spread throughout the entire Medicine King Valley was withdrawn, and the spirit vein spirit returned to the source of the spirit vein. Thaling, although I believe that the spirit vein spirit will not secretly spy on us, just to be sure, I still need to trouble you to use the divine sense of a peak martial honor to help me monitor the situation around us. Although the spirit vein spirit agreed very quickly, Yuhauran was cautious and still reminded Thaling before he started refining the detoxification pill. Yuhauran, don't worry about refining the pill, I will take care of everything, Thaling promised. After 3 consecutive upgrades, not only had the pill furnace's grade been restored to the King Realm's highest grade, but the power of the pill fire had also increased by more than 10 times. Therefore, the detoxification pill that would have taken more than an hour to refine took less than 20 minutes to successfully refine, and there were 9 perfect pills. After carefully observing the quality of the pills and further checking through the spirit pagoda, he finally confirmed that the detoxification pill that had just been refined could not only detoxify the poison of the life-devouring pill, but also perfectly control the spirit vein spirit of the upper grade 3 spirit vein spirit. Because the time taken to refine the detoxification pill was too short, and he was afraid that the spirit vein spirit would become suspicious, Yuhauran did not rush to summon it out, and instead sorted out his gains in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.